Hey everybody, welcome back to Choices Not Chances. Got another good one for you tonight. Tonight we're going to talk to Ron Holmes. We're going to talk about his life, his experiences in the military, his experiences with Special Operations Command, and then his transition out and into being a father at a late age, and the maybe the struggles or maybe even the joys that have come along all along the way. Ron's a retired Marine Special Operations Command, retired from Marine Special Operations Command after serving 20 years in the United States Marines. During his time at MARSOC as the Communications Operations Chief, he was a senior enlisted responsible for the creation of the first Marine Special Operations Communications School called MNOC, Marine Network Operators Course. Prior to that, he served with the Force Reconnaissance Commands for much of his time in the service. His primary job in reconnaissance was reconnaissance communication. Post-retirement, he worked in support of global war on terrorism with the Joint Special Operations Command. Shortly thereafter, serving as a sensor operator on an Intelligence Reconnaissance Surveillance platform. This led to him working as an independent diplomatic security consultant. In 2014, he was diagnosed with cancer and could no longer deploy. As of today, he's cancer-free. For the last 15 years, he's run his own firearms training that has provided over 7,000 hours of marksmanship instruction for all skill levels on multiple weapon platforms. Riker USA was created in 2014. He holds a patent for the Riker grip that he invented. He's the principal owner of Riker USA. He has a bachelor's degree in Homeland Security and Emergency Management with honors. The summer of 2023, he created a new Life Skills Academy, a summer camp for boys and girls ages 6 to 15. The camp works to create assets in the home and the community, starting at the age of 6. Their motto is God, Family, Country. He's married to Tracelyn Holmes. Together they have their son Riker Jeffrey Holmes, who is the namesake of the company. His son's also named after a fallen recon communicator, Jeffrey Corky Starling. He lives by the 5 F's and a B: faith, family, fitness, fighting, firearms, and a bow. The goal with their company, products, and training is the same: make a positive impact and leave it better than when it started. All of those ring solid. Thanks for coming on, man. Ron Holmes, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. This
Absolutely.
is excited to be down here. It's always cool when I love being a guest on people's podcasts, but when you get to do in studio, I think it's just it's kind of just a little bit better.
I think so too. I think it facilitates the conversation better, especially when you can speak to somebody and you can see their demeanor, you can see in their face and in their body language and know when to go further or when not to go further, and kind of where to lead the direction, where to take the direction of the podcast. I think it makes it easier for both parties.
Yeah, it flows good typically. Yeah, so
more authentic too, in my opinion.
Yep.
So,
yep.
Well, thanks for coming on, man. I know I heard about you from a previous guest, and a couple previous guests had had your name up, and Riker USA, I've been, ever since I heard about it, checking out the grips, and I'm sure we'll get into that. But first, let's start at the beginning. That's what I like to do with almost every interview. Once in a while, I'll throw a curveball in there. But let's start at the beginning. I want to know who you come from, where you come from, where you're at in the pecking order, if there's more children than you.
I'm originally from Middletown, Connecticut, and I'm the oldest of two. My sister, my younger, it's crazy, man. I think about my sister's 50. It's just like, she's my little sister, but I'm like, she's 50, and I'm just like, it just doesn't make sense. No, I wanted to be, I'm one of those kids, like I wanted to be a Marine my whole life. And it started young, 3-4 years old at a Memorial Day parade, and watching the Marine Corps Color Guard lead the parade down. And I remember asking, might ask my dad, it's like, what is that? And he's like, those are Marines. He's like, not everybody can be a Marine. And he said, I watched them march all the way down. And he said, when I couldn't see him anymore, I looked at him and said, I'm going to be a Marine. So when all my friends and everybody were playing Army and they were playing war, I would always play Marine. And I had my grandfather's helmet. My grandfather was 10th Mountains in World War II. And he's a pretty interesting story, which I still never, he's passed on, but I've never gotten the whole thing. But him and his brother were both fluent German reading, writing, and speaking. So they had a very interesting time, and during their service. But I had his old K-pot, and I wrote USMC on it with marker, and so I was always playing Marine. But funny is I had gotten a call from the recruiter. I had just turned 16, and my neighbor had enlisted, and Staff Sergeant Mitch Virouette was my recruiter. Wow. And he says, he's like, "Hey, is Ron Holmes there?" I was like, "Yeah." I answered the phone, and he's like, "It's Staff Sergeant Virouette. Heard you want to be a Marine." I was like, "Yes, I do." And he's like, "Well, I'd like to sit down and talk to you." He says, "When are you free?" And I was like, "I'm free now." And he's like, "You know where my office is?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Well, come on down." And I was like, "Cool." And I got on my BMX, rode down there. It was like 7 miles. I did it in like 10 minutes. I was like, oh. So in my mind, I'm like, I'm leaving the next day.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going back to school. I'm like, I'm going to finish high school and boot camp. Like, this is going to be amazing. Like, yes, my life is starting now. This is what I wanted. So we went through all the paperwork. Everything's there and everything. And he's filling everything out. And, this and the other. And he goes, "Hey, what's your age? Or what's your birthday?" And everything like this. And he's like, "How old are you?" I was like, "I just turned 16. And he's just like, and he puts the pen down. He goes, "Oh, you can't join." And I was like, "What do you mean I can't join?"
What's wrong?
And he's like, "No, you have to be 17. Your parents have to sign, and you can go, and you have to graduate high school." And I was like, "All right, I'll quit school. I'll get a GED." He goes, "No." He goes, "You don't qualify." I was like, "How you know I don't qualify?" He goes, both your parents married?" I was like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Do they both work?" And I was like, "Yes." He goes, "You don't qualify." I'm like, "Yeah." And I was like, "How about I get emancipated? I quit school. I get emancipated." And then he goes, "Dude, you have to graduate high school."
Just go back to school.
Like, damn it. So I enlisted when I was 17. My parents signed. And, and then I went to boot camp November 89. Went in, and this is the thing, too. I remember Staff Sergeant Virouette was an air winger. And I was that kid. I wanted to be a grunt. I was like, "Give me guaranteed grunt. I want guaranteed." He's like, "I'm not going to do that for you." So I scored pretty well in the ASVAB. And I was like, "I want grunt." He goes, "I'm not doing that. I can't do that for you." He goes, "Here's what I'm going to do." He goes, "I'm going to hook you up." And I remember this. He goes, "I'm going to let you go in open contract." And I'm like, "Really? What is that?" And he goes, "Dude, you could end up grunt." He goes, "You could end up a door gunner on a helicopter." And I'm just like, and I'm like, all right. But I honestly, I was so blinded. Like, I didn't even care.
You're just ready to go.
Then when he told me that I was getting paid, I didn't even realize that you got paid. Like, I was just going to be a Marine.
Right.
And then he was just like, he's like, "Yeah, and as you get promotion, you get pay raises." And I said, but I remember telling him, I was like, I'm going to get paid to do this? And he goes, "Yeah." And I was like, "Well, how much am I going to make?" And he tells me, and I'm like, "Oh, damn." I'm like, so I'm just going to go buy an IROC Z. And he starts laughing, like, because this is 86, 87, right? And he's just like, "Oh, man." So he was like, "Yeah, I'm going to hook you up. I'm going to send you open contract." And then I'm like, so then you're in boot camp, and then I'm in MCT, and still didn't have an MOS. And we're like, "Oh, shit, I could end up a cook."
Yeah. We
didn't realize that was a job. Right? Yeah. And I'm like, and then I ended up getting picked to be a communicator because I had a high EL score. So that was not bad.
Let's talk about that.
I end up in the stumps, and I remember I was the first communication class we were the first communication class to get trained on the DCT, which is the Digital Computer Terminal. And basically, it's the first military iPad.
Okay.
And it was just a dot matrix little screen. It had pre-programmed. You could have medvacs in there. You could have 9-lunts in there. You could have sit reps in there. Everything was just pre-planned. You go to your menu, and it wasn't really hard. The hard part was it had these heavy cables that you had to plug into your radio. Pardon me. And use it like that. So we're in 29 Palms, go home on leave. We get our orders. I'm going to Okinawa. So we're super psyched because I joined, I wanted to go overseas, and we're like, we're going to Okinawa. This is great. So found out we're going to 1st Marine Air Wing, and I'm like, not really what I wanted. But where we went, we were on the Air Wing, but I went to, I don't even know if it's still around, but we went to Lad Battalion.
Okay.
Low altitude air defense. So in the 90s, they had transitioned from the Red Eye to the Stinger missile.
Okay.
So Lab Battalion was the grunts of the Air Wing. They were Stinger missile batteries to provide the mobile air security, surface to air security for expedient flight lines and everything like that. So we were, let's see, I graduated at PFC, went to Oki, check in July. August 2nd is my birthday. August 2nd, 1990, George Bush declared war on Saddam Hussein. I got promoted to Lance Corporal. I turned 19, and it was Boss's Night. So Boss's Night I don't think it even exists anymore, but back then, Boss's Night in Okinawa at the E Club was a disaster. It's like you go and you drink with your boss, right?
Boy.
You drink with your team leader, your platoon sergeant, platoon commander, company commander, all that, right? And it's just a big, typical, Marine Corps function. Get shit faced, show up to work tomorrow, and don't be fucked up, right?
Yeah.
And then it's my birthday, and then I got promoted. It was a rough night for newly promoted Lance Corporal Holmes, right? It was a rough night, right?
Yeah, I can imagine.
So 3 days later, we were already set. We went to Korea because at the time, Camp Stanley on Korea had the only overseas indoor simulator for shooting a Stinger. And if you look at now like where the video games are and VR and all that stuff, and I don't play any of that stuff, but you look at that and you look at now the addition of the AI with all that. We had this, it was a movie theater and it was a 180-degree dome, and it literally took like 10 minutes to load the simulator for one person to sit there with the training Stinger and to shoot. And if you missed, it's like now you had to wait 10 minutes again for it to reboot. So I don't know if you ever used I think were the FATS trainers.
Yeah, I did.
So it was a million times worse and slower than that, right?
Check.
And because the FATS trainers never worked. So,
Yeah.
So we're there, and then they're building out this team, and we had the most, like, I guess we had the thing, I think it was called like AC, Air Contingency Brigade, and we were the next platoon that was on standby to go to the Philippines or wherever. And we were in Korea. We were the most current at that time, getting everybody trained. And there was 5 of us that were attached to that debt, and we had to go back because we were picked. I was handpicked to go because there was a lot of more senior communicators. I was handpicked to go because it was me and one of my best friends to this day, who's down in Wilmington with me. We were the only 2 that were trained on the DCT.
Okay.
And because my platoon sergeant at the time, he was the one, he picked me, so I owe my first deployment to the DCT. So I ended up having to teach as, I'm in the Marine Corps 9 months, and now I'm in the Gulf War. So we go back to Oki, we pack all our stuff up, sit down, have to write the will, have to do all this, and I'm just like, to me, I'm like, oh, this is amazing.
Phenomenal.
Yeah, this is like what I joined for. Then we set sail from, I think it was Kinred, and we set sail from Kinred, and I think August 21st.
Okay.
It was like August 2nd, August 21st, we're setting sail. We're on the USS Schenectady, flat bottom boat, and I don't know how much sea time you have.
None.
A flat bottom boat was World War II era.
I can imagine
concept.
that's rough.
Yeah, so they would have the causeways. They would lay the causeways out, and they would go, and they would try to get everything up there. And we left Okinawa, and it was like, oh man, it was great. So we stop in the Philippines. We're in the Philippines for 3 days. And it's I'm now very like, all the 80s movies and all the Vietnam books I read as a kid, and, the Recon Diaries and all that stuff. And like, I'm like, oh man, this is
getting closer.
This is it.
Yeah.
We leave the Philippines in a tropical storm.
Oh yeah.
And I'm telling you, I was just like, no, this is not for me. Like I want out. I want off this boat. I think I should be in the Air Force. Like, this is horrible. Like, it was the seas were so bad. So the causeway is like it's a big metal piece of road. Okay. And they're strapped to the outsides of the front of the ship. These seas were so bad that they broke off. Right? Like this thing, the whole ship shut down. the chow hall was closed. It was peanut butter and jelly and bread, and
Solid.
and that was it. And if you could make yourself to the chow hall, that's all there was for like 2.5 days. It was nobody got out of the rack. It was bad. I had the shot, the patch behind the ear, and the pills, and I was running on empty. There was nothing left in me, and we all of a sudden we get through that. We end up in Al Jabal Royal Port in Saudi, and we pull in, and we drove our Humvees off, and like we all went, and all of us got out once we drove off, and we just like sat on the ground.
Two snow angels.
Oh my God, we're just like, it's so hot, we don't even care. This isn't like, oh, I'm not. And like our biggest thing is like, did we have to go back to Okinawa that way? Like, cause no, like
Terrible.
no. So, anyways, they're like, yeah, whatever. Now that's the funny thing too is this is 90. So fitness and the way ships were designed were very different, right? So we had the old school, like if you go down to USS North Carolina and you see like how the racks are, there was no coffin racks, right? Everybody had like a little, like that little old school gym foot locker.
Yep. And
then you had your sea bag, and the sea bags were piled at one end of the berthing area. And so you only had what you needed. The gym was a room that was maybe as big as this room here, and it had 3 old school exercise bikes, a chess table, and the TV, and you could still smoke in a ship at this time.
Huh.
Man, that was horrible.
Yeah,
For non-smokers, that was horrible because the smoke would just linger in there and everything. So,
and you're trying to get your workout in.
yeah, and there was a couple dumbbells. It was just, it wasn't like it is now, right? Just the technology and the mindset and the development in the transportation of taking you somewhere, but also still having to remain mission ready, right? So we get there, and we set up, and this is August. We're there, like, I think we get there right after Labor Day. And we set up around the big airfield. Okay. Everybody came in and out of that airfield. So we had 12 teams. Every team had their fight. We had obviously interlocked in sectors of fire with the Stingers, and then we had everything was a shift work from there. And we went September through April, and we didn't fire one Stinger. Like that's what we did. Now
Wasn't that kind of war.
It wasn't that kind of war, and we're like, oh, man. But we did receive. And it's funny. It's like I actually got up middle of the night to go use the head, and you went everywhere with your gas mask because we had already we had already had drills and stuff like that. We hadn't actually been gassed yet, and I'm up there and I'm talking to the guy, and I'm watching with my buddy, and we're sitting there and we're just shooting the shit, and we look up and we legit see a scud go right over our heads, and I'm telling you, like maybe I don't know 100 yards up in the air.
Oh, wow.
Goes right over our heads, and we're like. And we just froze, like, and we're like, well, what's going on? And then we see it land. We didn't see it land, but we saw like where it landed because there's a big flash. We threw our gas masks on, and we ran in, and we're like, gas, everybody wake up. We just saw Scud. And everybody's like, they thought we were playing around. And we're like, get up. And we're like, I'm getting dressed and everything like this, and we're moving out to our vehicles because we had to punch out. And it was like, oh, now we're getting ready to have a fight in our 20-man GP tent, and then the air raid siren goes off, and everybody's like, oh, and it turns out this Scud, they launched the Scud, and it was a dud. It literally landed in the flash that we saw. It hit the light poles and popped the transformers, popped the lights, and then it just landed in the water. And didn't detonate.
Well, thank goodness.
Yeah, so it was like that was that, and then we fly back to Okinawa. I'm in Okinawa for like maybe 6 weeks, and I get stationed back at Lejeune. New unit, and then they're just kind of moved forward. Next deployment was 24th MEU. We took the Wasp out on its maiden voyage. That was like the premier ship. Now I talk to dudes that are like, that ship is the biggest shit hole. And then like the Kearsarge, I was on that one for its maiden voyage, and they're like, piece of shit. And I'm like, what? I'm like, that ship was like a cruise liner. But Yeah, we did a turnover. I can't remember the dates on that, but I was at a state platoon at that time, and we were the RNS element for Second Force Recon at the time. And man, it's crazy how we were in thin skin Humvees, we were in chocolate chips with green boots, which they talk about in Black Hawk Down. They call the Marines white sleeves with green boots, and in old school H harnesses, war belts, green 18-inch barrel M16s, right? And
I like those though.
Yeah, and we were doing literally, we were setting up, hides and surveillance positions, and the second dudes were rolling in daylight snatches and just grabbing these dudes, rolling
Where
them
was
up.
this at?
Somalia.
Okay.
In '93,
Yeah,
before Task Force Ranger, and it was pretty interesting. And I actually I should have brought it down. I found my ROE
Oh yeah.
card laminated, and Corporal Holmes on it and everything like that, and it was pretty neat. So, and now that was like I came back and then I had to re-enlist.
Wait, hold on. So you come from Okinawa home, and you get assigned to a reconnaissance element?
No. I got stationed at 8th Crime Battalion,
Okay.
8th Com, and I was absolutely miserable.
Uh-huh.
It was not where I wanted to be. And the crazy thing is there was 6 of us that rotated back that were communicators, and they used to have there used to be this thing called SRIG, Surveillance Reconnaissance Intelligence Group, right?
Okay.
And under SRIG was Anglico, Topo, Intel Company, Second Force, 8th Com, and they made up the SRIG. So later became a MAGTAF, and then a little joint task force kind of thing. So the SRIG, you check into a joint reception center, and there were 6 communicators, and they were like, all right, 3 of you guys going to 8th Com, 3 of you guys are going to Second Force. Well, there was 3 of us that wanted to go to Second Force, and 3 that did not want to go.
Perfect.
So what happened was they were like, no, the 3 that didn't want to go went.
Oh, what the?
Right. So they were like, don't worry, you guys can change your order. So we get there, and they're like, we're not letting you go. Well, 3 weeks later, those 3 dudes who didn't want to be there were now in 8th Com. So that was already now like, and then it's just like, it was just different than Okinawa. Okinawa was just different, and it's not what I wanted. And I had gotten promoted to corporal, and I was just not happy. And I was actually working in a 3 shop. They put me in a 3 shop because I could type. And so any youngsters out there listening, if anybody asks you in the Marine Corps if you can type, you say no. But they're like, hey, do you want to go to the MEU? And I'm like, yeah. What's a MEU? I was already checked out. I didn't even care. And they're like, you're going to get to go on ship and travel around. I'm like, we do that? I was like, and they're like, what? And I was like, yeah. I'm like, yeah, sign me up. I'm in. So I go, and I'm assigned to the comm platoon at 24th MEU. And then I get, from there, I get sub-signed out to BLT 1-2 stay. And then BLT 1-2 stay, then we go to RNS school. And RNS school in the 90s was 3 months out at Stone Bay. It was incredible. And what I learned in there when I went to work for the diplomatic side of things after I retired came into play big time. It's pretty funny how that stuff just sticks with you. But so we did all the whole workup for the MEU, because back then we used to do the workup was you had your True-X and all that stuff, and then you had then you always after that then you finished off with your 2 weeks of blue-green workup. The final, so you would go 2 weeks of practice on the ship, so to make sure that Navy and Marine Corps got along on the ship, everybody knew everything. Then you come back, and then you go on your leave, and then you go out on your deployment.
Okay.
So only good thing about that was that you were just racking up sea days, right? So we end up with the stay platoon, and we're on the Wasp, and we're in Kuwait, and got there, all the stuff went sideways in Somalia. We were all deployed in Kuwait, and I was actually I was the radio chief on supervisor that night, And we got the call from the ship. They were like, get Chomper. I went and woke up Colonel Broderick and said, sir, we got an issue. I need you to come to the, the COC. He came in, of course, right when I handed the handset, radio dies, right?
Oh, boy.
So it's like, so we're sitting there, we're working, this is old comm gear. It's like, KY60. That's before the 99 came out, right?
Okay.
So we're getting all the gear back up and everything, and this, that, and the other, and we start planning. And we pulled the entire MU back, and we're unloaded back on the ship in less than 48 hours, setting sail down to Somalia. And then we did, I think we did 2 months, 3 months there, and then came back home. And then shortly after we were home, we saw all that stuff happen with Black Hawk Down. And then still coming out from the Gulf War, there was this was the Clinton years, so they were trying to downsize. So when it came time to re-enlist, you're fighting for boat spaces.
Yeah.
And when I went to re-enlist, there was only 7 slots available for, at the time, the MOS was a 2531. I think now it's like 0621.
Okay.
For a field radio operator. And there was only 7 slots. And it was like, I'm like, holy crap. Like, and I literally re-enlisted, like, I think 3 weeks before my EAS.
Fast as you could get it, yeah.
Yeah, and that's just like, and then I'm sitting, I'm like, well, what would have happened if I didn't get this boat space? So like, you would have been out. And I'm like, wait, what?
Or gotten a different MOS.
Yeah. So
Which would suck.
and you look back at like leadership and career path and all that stuff, and I think that's like one of the things like that we try to make sure happened with the MNOC was that there's a career path for the communicators in the MARSOC community, for them to follow, like that once I do this school and I do these deployments, I come back, I get promoted, or I have this. Now there's like advanced schools or refresher schools for them. So there's something there that's going to help them with education, right? But then there's also something there that is going to be able to guide them on what they need to do to remain relevant, but also to remain competitive with their peers and get promoted, with or ahead and all that.
Sure.
I don't ever really remember it being that way for communicators, right? And it's like, it was always like, go to sergeant boot camp. We didn't have like corporal's course. Right. Corporal's course came, I think, when I was already senior sergeant, looking at staff sergeant. So you didn't have those types of things. So I re-enlisted. Right after I re-enlisted, this is crazy. I re-enlisted a corporal because because the boat spaces were so tight, and I was a corporal for I think almost a year. I didn't put sergeant on until 5 years.
Same way.
Yeah, but that's just because I was maxed out. Yeah. I had every MCI done. I was expert. I was a 300 PFTer. And so it was very, very, very slow. And then from there, I went to Anglico. I had a friend who was over at Anglico. He said, all you got to do is come over and try out, because you're in Shrig, we can pull you over. Okay. So I saw Anglico as, whoa, this is a really cool mission, because the history of Anglico in Vietnam was pretty cool with the Colt teams. And these guys would go in and they were the cast, and they would do the cast, and kind of similar to like what CCT does, but a little bit smaller, the combat controllers in the Air Force.
Oh, yeah.
Like, so the Anglico teams would do a lot of that, and it was just history, but now I'm getting to learn like the CAS side of things and the SIF, and that was really cool. And so I'm like, all right, awesome. And so I get over there, and it's like, I see it as like, I want to do this, but this is now I'm kind of reborn after that deployment. Now I'm like, no, I'm staying in. Now I see Anglico as like, this is how I'm going to continue on and get towards, earning my way into being recon battalion or force, or I don't even care where it's at.
But is that what you had your mind on though?
Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty much. And I appreciate my time, my whole path up to that point. But so then, I get screened for recruiting.
Oh boy.
I put on sergeant. I'm a sergeant 6 months, and the recruiting team comes to, and we're all like, oh my God. I'm like, I can't do this. I can't do this. I'm like, I didn't want to be a drill instructor. I didn't want to be a recruiter. I was like, I'm 24 years old right now. I'm like, I can't do this. And I'm sitting down in front of this master sergeant, and he's like, Jake, from California, jacked, tan, like, you know, he's in his Charlies. And I just remember looking at him, and I don't have a big rack, but at the time that, you know, 2 deployments back then, I think I had like three rows of, you know, three or four, right? This guy had 4 ribbons.
Yeah.
And he didn't have one Sea Service deployment ribbon on him. And this guy had been a master sergeant. He had been a career recruiter from the time he was a staff sergeant. Yeah. He told me, and he says, like, hey, how you feel about being a recruiter? And I said, Master Sergeant, I said, I don't.
Don't feel nothing
I said,
about
don't.
that.
He says, you don't want to get back to the Corps. I said, I'm getting back to the Corps every single day. But, you know, by doing my job as a communicator. He goes, well, you're going to, I was like, I'm not interested. I'm really not interested. He goes, what would happen if you got orders? I was like, well, if I get orders, I get orders. But I'm just telling you right now, I don't want to go. I was like, I didn't come in for this. And I says, you know, I would probably, you know, because I was also at that point where I think I was like right at 2 years left on contract. And I was like, I'll probably just get out.
Yeah, you're going to push me on.
And he was like, okay, all right, well, you know, he goes, I wish you the best of luck in your career. 2 weeks later, orders back to Okinawa.
Oh.
And I'm like, oh, joke's on you. I like Okinawa.
I loved
like,
it
what's
there.
up? What's up? Send me. So I end up getting, because I was in Shrig, I go to 3rd Shrig, and I get orders to 5th Force Recon.
Oh,
and then that was it.
What was it like getting those orders?
I was excited.
That's what I'm saying. What was that like? Like,
yeah,
score?
yeah. I go, like, they're like, hey, Holmes, you got to go to 3 shop. Go to the 3 shop, and they're like, hey, man, tell you, man, you got orders to Okinawa. I was like, cool, when? And they're like, I mean, cool. I'm like, dude, I told him, I was like, I love Okinawa. Like, let's go. Like, and they're like, you're leaving in 45 days. I'm like, sweet. All right, cool. What do I do now? I'm like, well, here's your checkout sheet. And I'm like, all right, got it. Like, bye. So I go over there, and then I did 3 years at 5th Force. Best time of my life. Best in the Marine Corps.
Why?
Because I was a rope, and it's what I wanted to do. And I think that I still, in my heart today, in my 20 years I did, I feel that Okinawa, if there was a way to make every first term Marine go to Okinawa first, their first part of their enlistment is in Okinawa, I think they would value their time in the Marine Corps better.
Why?
I think being on the island, being restricted, being a little bit being free, but having a lot more constant rules and constant, like, you know, eyeballs on you and stuff. And I guess it's way worse now than it was when I was there, as far as you know, liberties and liberty and all that stuff.
Sure.
But I don't know. I just always felt that the units were tighter. Even when I was at Lab Battalion, the units were tighter. When I was on Oki, the units were tighter. And you could see the cohesion, too, in, like, just walking around base and being in the gym, or, you know, at the pool, or, you know, even in the E-Club, or they used to say the world-famous Camp Hansen E-Club, which we always cracked up about. But I always thought, like, just the unit cohesion and the unit pride was just, it was what the Marine Corps is supposed to be, you know. And the other good thing, the benefit that we had at 5th Force, is that it was a melting pot of leadership and training. And you had West Coast, East Coast, you had Hawaii, you know, and you had all these dudes just coming there. And it was just like, holy crap, you know. And it was just a lot of, like, you know, even as a senior sergeant, you know, and I'd already had a bunch of schools and deployments and stuff like that, and I was called Anglico for probably my first 9 months there, because I showed up with gold wings and said, come here, Anglico. Hey, Anglico, do this. Hey, come here, Anglico. Like, that was my name.
That's all they needed.
And it's just and it was like, it was awesome, and just it was just great. And I'll tell you, like, my closest, you know, friendships to this day are from my time there. And it just everything I did going forward in my career, I always would take my time there and try to apply that to everything to this day, you know. Like, it's so important to us is that we're going to wait until my son is probably, like, you know, between 11 and 13. We're planning, there's a handful of us that we're all there together. We're going to do an Oki trip.
Okay.
And we're going to do the Oki trip for a few reasons. One, we all want to go back, but we're going to do it, and we're going to go plan it so we can go to Iwo and go to Fuji. And it's going to be a long trip, and then we're going to finish off on mainland. It's going to be in the winter, so we can go snowboard. But the big thing that's why we want to go, is the Special Operations Training Building was dedicated to Jeff Starling, who my son is named after.
Right.
And that was done after all of us were still stationed there. So we all want to go back and see it, but we want my son to go back and see it.
That's dope, man.
To see his namesake.
Yeah, that's
so
dope.
Just I don't know, man. Just Fifth Force was magical, and then it's not around anymore. I think it's the same thing it is here. It's like Delta Company at 3rd Recon Battalion or something like that.
Okay.
But it's just Oki it was just different, man. The leadership, we had Colonel Cook, a Force Recon legend, and man, it was just awesome.
It was the unit you call home.
Yeah. And I said
everybody has one.
I said it at my retirement, and there's like, I'd always try to compare it, and it's a lot of times it's just disappointment or we took care of each other. The thing is I think like over there, it's like you knew everybody's family over there because you're all together. We're all we have. Mm-hmm. Like we'd have battalion functions, but we would do them on the beach, and you get to meet everybody's family and the married guys, who lived off base and everything. They were always inviting us over to the houses, and it just made us very, very close, and very trustworthy. Even like there was always, and that's not saying everybody got along, because you're not
right
always, but we were tight. We were tight. We had some amazing guys over there, and I'm just very fortunate that I got to spend that part of my career right there in the middle of it over there.
That's awesome.
And it was the best. It's just we did everything, and a lot had to do with the leadership. We were the best in, my boy Bo, we talk about it all the time, and to this day we all say like the best CO that we ever had was Colonel Cook. And the thing we liked about him is like, man, he was an asshole. But the thing we liked about it was that he was consistent. He didn't be an asshole to be an asshole. He was an asshole because he wanted to make you better. And excuse me. He trained and pushed, and but you were rewarded, and it was amazing. And it's just like that was it. Like had I gotten out at that time, I would not have.
You would have been
probably
fine.
Wouldn't have had any regrets, honestly. But it was cool. It was, and again too, it's just we were at a time too in the 90s. There was no money still. There wasn't money. We made it up as we went along, and we took training opportunities when we can. We maximized. We went to Hawaii and Guam all the time, and we would go and everything would be planned. We'd have a Greenside week. We'd have a Amphib week. We'd have an Airborne week, and then we'd have one final culminating exercise, and then we'd typically have about a week of reward. 5-6 days. Here, go enjoy. You've earned it. But up to that point, no, you're nonstop
grinder.
Yeah. And I know Colonel Cook on a different side of things now, and he just retired again from what he's been doing with some pretty amazing stuff. But so yeah, man. So that, and then I get stationed back at second. And then at second for a while, I take out a Unitos.
I don't know what that is.
Things that don't exist. Apparently, they're bringing the Unitos back. Somebody told me. So Unitos is over in the West Coast. They had Carrot Cruise, and East Coast they had Unitos. So basically, it's South America cruise. Oh, right. And you stop and you work with all your counterparts. Right. It's like Win Hearts and Minds kind of thing.
Check. Keeping
up relations and everything. And that was phenomenal. So I was a staff sergeant. I was filling a captain's billet. So that went over really well with the leadership of the Unitos that Second Force sent a staff sergeant to fill a captain's billet. So that was good. Yay me. But we had a 7-man det, and I had 4 guys who we took out, who were ropes. And
What's that mean when you say ropes?
they were, you wear a rope to show your entry level.
Oh, okay.
And its identifier. Colonel Dean, our CO at Second Force at the time, told Sergeant Jackson and myself, he said, make these guys what you want them to be, who's going to carry the torch when you guys are gone. And he says, the day you guys come back, if you tell me they're good, he goes, they're 0321s the day they come back. And he goes, so train them how you want. And we're like, got it. And we worked these guys. And then I had a corporal who came out, who was the team leader, and then ran those 4. So we did a lot of good stuff. But the whole thing was we're training them, but now we're working with other countries' counterparts and stuff. And it was a phenomenal thing. Sadly, of those 4, one is still alive. But they, all these guys went on to great things. And, that was an interesting thing, because then we got on the last flat bottom in the Navy, the USS Lemoore County, and went through the Panama Canal, which is like, again, you're getting like, this is a deployment, but now you're getting history, like world history.
Yeah.
And it's pretty cool. We went through the canal, and then we went on a run, like a, Unitos run, and which was pretty funny because 7 dudes went to the hospital from dehydration because it was ridiculously hot. Anyway, so we go down. We hit Ecuador, Colombia, Chile, and each time we went, we would leave the ship. We would leave the ship, and we would go and work with our counterparts. And this was great because we're away from the flagpole. We're doing our own thing.
Yep.
We put in all our requests for everything we need. Everything was done 2 stops in advance, and it was just awesome.
It was great.
No eyeballs are on us, and it was awesome. And we were having such great success that after Chile, the for whatever reason, the XO of the ship assigned an infantry lieutenant to hang with us because he realized that we were doing all these things. And when he realized it, is our ship, we were on a Chilean frigate, and me and the lieutenant and Sergeant Jackson were sitting on the Chilean frigate, and our boys did a scout swimmer insert, secured the beachhead with the Chileans, secured it up and everything, and then everything was coordinated, and this is what we're supposed to be doing. Well, the Lemoore County was, for whatever reason, the CO, the ship's captain and XO were racked out. The navigator was the senior officer on the bridge, and they were going 14 knots in the hinterland.
Oh boy! And
ripped the screw off the ship, the whole prop. And the bow watch is like, we're going to crash, we're going to crash, we're going to crash. Like, we hear all these things afterwards. So we are on the Chilean frigate, and we can't really see the ship, but we hear this like ungodly metal twisting, and we're like, so we call our team, we're like, Highlander, this is actual, what was that? And they're like, stand by. And we're waiting, and they were moving to get closer, and they're like, actual, this Highlander, like, what's up? And they're like, yeah, that was Lemoore County. And we're like, what happened? And long pause. And she's like, it crashed. And we're like, it crashed. We're like, crashed into what? And it's like, sure shit, dude. He comes back and he goes, Earth. And we're like, he didn't know what to say. We're like, holy crap. Earth. Oh, Roger. Man. Yeah. So apparently when it ripped the screw off, it ripped the bottom of the flat bottom ship off. Oh, boy. Humongous, huge hole. Ship's taking on water. Marines are in their man overboard drills, JP5, all the lines, everything. The ship it's in bad shape. They shore it up. They get everybody off the ship. So we pull our guys back, and the Chileans are like, all right, man, we're out. And we're like,
what about us?
Well, we're on the ship with them.
I know.
So we had civvies with us. We had our gear and everything. So we moved down to the next port. And we're like, we didn't really have comms with them. So we got them. They drove us back up, and we're trying to figure out what's going on. And the Marines had nothing. So they found another base. They put them into this Chilean base. What they did was they had funds, and they were going out to like the Chilean version of Walmart and buying sneakers and socks and jeans, and like for the Marines, because like they literally had the camis that they left with in the backpack, whatever they could grab, everything. And we had to put in claims and and all this stuff because everything was destroyed. So we're like, all right, well, we're going to continue to train. So we went down to the special forces or the commandos base, and we had the best time. And in this whole time now, the Navy and Marine Corps trying to figure out, was it cheaper just to fly us home, to say cancel the deployment, or send another boat down. So got the word. It took about a week to make that decision. They had to find a boat that was ready. They sent down the Tortuga, which was LST is a flat bottom, LSD, maybe it was an LSD. It was like it wasn't an LHA, so it was LSD, I think. And it was like a big, like a supply ship. It was like going to a legit cruise liner. So
compared
nice.
To what you were in.
Oh my God, it was so nice. And so we heard that was coming down. So we're like, cool. I think we had 14 days, 2 weeks. And we trained. We were obstacle course. We were diving. We were jumping. We were doing all of this stuff. We were going on deep patrols. We were doing hides and working with the counterparts the whole time. And it was awesome. It was awesome. Nobody got hurt on that entire float, which is great. The one downside of all of that was because of we had that crash, and we were in Chile pretty much almost 3 weeks longer than we were supposed to be. We were supposed to be doing cold weather training in Ushuaia, and that is right at the southern point of South America, and that was just all I wanted to do in our whole deployment, and that got scrubbed. We didn't have time for that. We did get a day of skiing in, which was epic.
Marine skiing or civic skiing?
No. We went and we coordinated with our dudes, and we went up to this place and rented skis there and everything, and just had a great time. But at that time, ski patrol was more didn't exist. There was an orange flag, don't ski here.
Don't fuck up.
So it was just a great time on that side of things. And we went down, and I'll say this for each country we went to, they all knew where we came from, and they all were like, hey, we're better than them, right? We're better than them. But I'll tell you, is that just the sense of, and this is where lessons learned about things you pick up along the way, right? The sense of patriotism that these guys had, for their country, it kind of was embarrassing to think that we were patriots because we're Americans, that you couldn't be a patriot if you weren't American. We all had that same kind of mindset. And then when you see these Colombians who were in their commando school and their graduation is a live patrol, and if they go out with 20 dudes, they're coming back with 17. They're they know that a handful of dudes are going to get killed. These dudes were in mismatched camis. They had mismatched rifles. They had hand-me-down stuff from the U.S. and everything. And it was the same thing in Ecuador. We had Staff Sergeant Duque, who went to Buds in 86, 87. And he wore the trident on his uniform. And he said that I remember him telling us, is that he made, compared to U.S., he made $300 a month is what he made as a staff sergeant. And he had been in 15 years. He said if his wife didn't work, he could not afford to serve his country. And, when we talk to the Colombians, they tell us how all this happened. We're like, well, why do people join the guerrillas? And they're like, nobody joins the guerrillas. We're like, then how are they still around? He said the guerrillas will come down and they snatch the babies. They snatch the males when they're 18 months, 2 years old, and they grow up, and that's all they know. And so they're ones that fight, and they're like, so why do you guys fight? And they're like, because our country's beautiful. And it was just holy crap. These dudes were amazing. And it's just the one thing I remember with Ecuador and Colombia, the one thing I wish we had was more time. Just more time to train, to spend with them, to help them, and it's just you kind of felt you felt their calling, we get to Argentina, and them dudes are just about, they have a good military, they've got a good, but they're really about looking good. They just like, do we look good? This is cool, right? This is cool.
Oh, boy.
They just, hey, you like this? It's cool, right? It's cool. It was pretty. Argentina was nuts. And then we had our ball in Rio. So our Spanish gets really good all the way down, all the way through. And then our last stop is Rio, and they speak Portuguese, and it's not even close to Spanish.
Yeah.
But, we come back. And then shortly after that, I get stationed in Alaska. Which was
your cold weather training now.
That was my dream job, man. I was up there for 6 years. And
what did you do there?
We had an INI, Echo Company Force Recon.
Okay.
And I was INI. I was the comm chief. And, recon dude, all that. And
now, were you recon MOS?
No, I'm primary comm, but I have the 0321 secondary.
Check.
So we're in.
So can you just like do what you want? Like if something cool with comm comes up, or are they giving you orders to say, yeah, you're a 21, but you're going to go do this?
When I was in Oki with 5th Force,
Uh-huh.
my last 2 years, we did cold weather training in Alaska.
Okay.
And then when I get to 2nd, let's see, after Unitas, before Unitas, we did, platoon I was in, we did a cold weather training to Alaska. So 3 years in a row in Alaska, and that's how I knew about the unit up there. I knew the comm chief up there was an old school 2nd Force dude, like legend comm guy, and became friends with him, and he told me how to get there. And he's like, the day you put on staff, the day you're selected for staff sergeant, he says, call the monitor and tell him you want to be up here. I will be up here until then. And he says, I'm going to tell him you're coming. So I did that. I put on staff sergeant, and he already knew I was going. So it just had to wait for
worked out.
Steve to put in his retirement. Once he put in his retirement, then I got my orders. So I got my orders up there in July 2000. And so I'm up there right about 2006. And so it was great. It was awesome. It was like cool. I get in there summer. There's so much to do in Alaska, and it's amazing. And there were so many things that I got to do there that I never thought about doing, and that I was very reluctant to do. But then once I started doing them, I was like, this is insane.
Like what?
My collateral duty, which was probably 50% of what I did, I was the Toys for Tots coordinator for the entire state of Alaska.
Check.
I was not into it at all. And Steve was like, you got to do this. Gunny Washam's leading me around. And he's like, this, that, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, he's like, and I'm just sitting there. I was like, come on, man. I'm like, we really got to do all this. He goes, this is part of our job, dude. And you're going to do a good job at it. And I sat there and I kind of like got out of my own way. And I started thinking, some things were presented to me. And I started thinking about like, holy crap, like these, like, I didn't grow up affluent or anything. My parents were amazing. They provided, but it was not without struggle, right? These kids up there live in the interior of Alaska, man. There's kids that I think it's AF. Excuse me, alcohol fetal syndrome. Some of these kids are just like they're born, with behind the curve, right? And you see these kids that in the interior, they don't have much. The history of Toys for Tots in Alaska is just, it's incredible. And it's one of the reasons why there's a unit up there. But it was like in the mid to late 80s, there was it was a corpsman, I think, that was stationed up there, did the Iditarod, and his sled broke, and he like fell through the ice or something, and his village pulled him in and saved him, fixed his sled, stopped him from dying, and got him back on the trail. The next year, he's like, I'm going to repay you guys. The unit brought them Christmas to the village that next year. So then it grew and it grew and it grew to the point where we get a reserve C-130 squadron roll in. We get people donating. We start the Toys for Tots drive starts in August in Alaska, and it goes through, and you do fundraisers and all this stuff. And so then we already have our sleds, our snow machines. Everybody else calls them snowmobiles in the lower 48, right? And then we have the big toboggan sleds. So we have volunteers come in and they wrap presents, and because we get lists of kids' names from the tribal leaders and the mayors and the principals of the schools, right? And what we do is it's full on mission profile. Like you're planning all this stuff. We coordinate. We have a guide on the ground. C-130 lands on the Yukon. We ride the sleds off. We meet our thing, and dude, we're ripping down.
That's
the
sick.
Yukon, like 60 miles an hour. And dude, I remember like looking over, and there was 5 bull moose just running.
Oh boy!
And it's just like you're sitting there, and it's like just like holy cow, this is just it's not real, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I never wanted to do that stuff, right? Then they're like, we get there and they're like, all right, they didn't tell me this, but like, you're Santa. I'm like, why I'm Santa? Like, senior man is Santa. So I'm Santa. So I have all the kids there, and it's just like it's when it's over and the kids are gone and you walk off, dude, it's very hard. Like I go outside, you kind of break down a little bit because it's the joy on these kids, and it's like now you're seeing a different side of the Marine Corps. And you know, the funny thing too is we had a painting in our building. This is crazy, of Captain John Pendleton clubbing, sitting back there with a rifle. Him and his Marines around the some rocks on the shore, and there were some poachers with clubs, and they were clubbing seals. And the Marines used to patrol the shores of Alaska and kill poachers.
No shit.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
This goes back to like Sitka, Alaska too. Alaska Days is celebrated in October. Purchasing of Alaska, it's a big thing. One of the first Marine Corps outposts was in Sitka, Alaska. Very big, very, very big deal. Sitka Days is amazing. If you
It's
ever,
like a big party.
it's insane. I haven't done it in quite a few years, but it's nuts.
Yeah.
It is nuts. They reenact everything, the traditional Russian garb, and like it's crazy. The first one I honestly don't really remember. Like you don't have a sober moment because everybody's so grateful that you came, and they just dig it.
Shower you. Yeah.
But yeah, so the Tots or Tots stuff was great. And one thing, I sat there in front of all the town leaders and the rotaries and everything like this, and I was like, look, I was straight up with them. I was like, I am not excited to have this duty. I was like, however, I was just like, you know, in the Marine Corps, you ask for nothing and you expect nothing. You never be disappointed. But this is no different than, you know, it is different, but I'm leading Marines and I have a mission and I have a task. I have to get it done. And I said, before I leave, before my time is up here, I will make Alaska the #1 Tots or Tots spot in the United States. My first year, we were 3rd. My second year and 3rd year, we were 1st. Boom. And when I came back and I stood in front of them that second year, and I said, we were 1st last year. And they were like, you want to talk about like, we almost didn't even have to do anything that year with the financial donations that came, because they were like, holy crap. Yeah. So we did a lot of different things, and it was and Alaska's different. And you got to think too, like, we're the largest state. I had 12 active duty Marines, and on a good day we had 80 reservists. So, and we're covering the entire state. Yeah. Yeah, and we're competing against Dallas, and Boston, and San Diego, and all that. So it was it was one of the most rewarding things I've ever done in my life. And
when did that sensation or emotion hit you? First year?
Probably when I was on that sled and we're driving, and when the first kid who sat on my lap, who thought he was sitting on Santa's lap, was like the importance of that mission. Yeah. And because you got to think, a lot of these kids, a lot of those, even the families up there in these villages, they don't, at that time, like, the internet was still like not really there, and a lot of these villages are dry villages because there is an alcohol problem. And you know, we had a bunch of our reservists who were state troopers, and man, the stories that these guys would tell, and the square footage or square mileage that one trooper has to cover is insane.
It's silly. Yeah.
You know, so I think it was probably that time, and then it was like, then I'm like, it's almost like I wasn't really a Grinch, but it was like, oh, and his heart grew like 10 sizes. Like that's kind of the
Well, you
effect.
understood the importance of the mission.
Yeah.
And then you could buy all in and be like, yeah, I'm giving this everything.
Yeah. So then I came with an attitude the next year. I'm like, you know, when people were like, oh, well, and I'm like, okay, so I'm going to put you down for, you don't want to help the Marines, help kids in your own state. So we got you. And
Roger.
Then I started realizing like, oh, I can come at these people like, you know, like a straight Marine. I don't have to be polite to them. I need something, and you're going to give it to me. Oh, you're not going to give it to me? Okay, I'm gonna let everybody know. I'm gonna play it like that. And they're like, no, and and it was great.
Public shaming is a tool.
Yeah. See, so that was awesome. You know, now 9/11 happens. You know, during this time up there, and it's like now we're INI and we're stuck. We can't go anywhere. I did get a really cool Yemen deployment out of there. I was in Yemen. I did 03. Almost all 03 in Yemen, and that was
out of Alaska.
Okay. Out of Alaska, came back to second, took a det, handpicked some reservists. We went over there. We had a really good det, and then did our time there, and then went back to Alaska, and then I wanted to homestead up there, but I didn't necessarily get along with the first sergeant and INI. The problem is that there's a lot of things that happened, but the first sergeant we had up there was relieved, and it was a bad deal all around, like complete investigation, unit shut down, the entire headquarters element from San Antonio came up, full on investigation, 6-week investigation. Like it was.
What did he do?
They went back. It was physically assaulting Marines. It was domestic violence, multiple charges of domestic violence. It was making threats to the commanding officer. It was a bad deal.
That's a bad deal.
This guy was a mentor of mine, and then he was my boss up there again. And then it was like, holy crap! So I was gunny select. I got frocked to gunny, and I became an acting first sergeant. So I had 2 people reach out to me and gave me all like just the kick in the ass I needed. One was Barry Morgan, who was my platoon sergeant at 5th Force, retired sergeant major, and the other one was Doug Zembeck, Lion of Fallujah, very good friend of mine, and he hit me up, and they both basically was like, basically said, you know what to do, it's broken, fix it, lead the Marines, and kind of like hearing it from both of them, and they unsolicited, they called me, they just reached out to me. And so I brought.
I think they just knew you were maybe in a spot where.
Yeah, well, they also knew they were also they knew that the first sergeant, and so they knew, you know, and then they heard that I was frocked and I was acting first sergeant.
Sure.
So I brought the INI in, and I was like, guys, I really don't know what to do here other than let's start at ground zero, and we started with uniform inspection. We started making them Marines. We started uniform inspections, and then we brought in, and I was a MIC map instructor, so we did a whole MIC map. We made everybody green belts. Sure. And so we did all of these things, and we started building that unit back up. So this was great. But then when we actually got a new first sergeant and we got another INI in, I had the command. So they would tell their counterparts, their master sergeant and their major, and they would always stop and check with me. And that was the problem. So, and I, you know, whatever. It's all good. And I'm back at second. I'm at second, and then we're at second for a few months, and then we become second MSOB.
So what, 06 time frame you go back over there?
Yeah, right. At 05, 06, I checked back in, like November, and checked back in, and at second force, then we became second MSOB, and then I get promoted to master sergeant, and early, which I didn't think that was going to happen because backing up a little, I got arrested as a gunny.
Hell yeah, what'd you do?
I had a loaded pistol in my truck on Elmendorf Air Force Base. And
you got arrested for it?
It's pretty funny. I got a derogatory page 11.
Okay.
And the major, because our major is an augment. This is I'm just rambling, man. But
it's all good.
She says, she goes, this is the hardest thing I've ever had to do to another Marine. And I was like, you didn't do anything. I was like, I'm the one who did it. Yeah. And she goes, well, you're not going to get promoted. This is going to hurt you. I was like, I'm not going to get promoted? And she goes, yeah. He's like, you serious? She goes, yeah. I was like, so I'm going to stay a gunny. She goes, yeah. And I'm like, damn, I would have done this a long time ago.
Bet.
And she's like, what? I was like, I didn't join the Marine Corps to get promoted. I joined the Marine Corps to do stuff. I was like, if I get promoted, I'm gonna stay in a desk.
Yeah.
I was like, I was like, I want to stay a gunny. I was like, I'm good. Let's do this.
Run
like,
it.
Yeah. So, yeah. So that's the gist of that. But it's so I was like, yeah, I'm not getting promoted. And all of a sudden, then they're like, hey, I didn't even submit a picture.
You got promoted anyway?
And they were like, dude, you have to submit a picture. I'm like, I'm not getting promoted. I got a derogatory page 11 as a gunny 18 months ago. I'm not getting promoted. And they're like, submit a picture. So I had to submit a picture, and I got promoted. And I'm like, how the fuck does this happen, dude? Like, I get promoted, and then I get put in the G6. And it was, I guess, over there now, the deputy of the G6 was my G6 colonel at the time. And my major, we were tasked with creating the first comm school.
Yeah.
And
now talk about that, because you guys were on the run, right? According to like MARSOC speeding up, and you're just creating. You're gonna have
everything was
you're having
created
to just do this on the move. Yeah.
ITC was being created. The selection was being created. You know, like, and if you look at the iterations of the names, like in acronyms, like. Third MSOB has had legit 7 official monikers.
Wasn't it SOAG?
Well, I think it was originally FMT, Foreign Military Training Unit, and then it was something else, and then it was this, and then now there's like regimental commands, and it's like and honestly, it's extremely confusing.
I was going to say I don't even know how all of it goes.
I don't know how it is anymore either, right? But so. We were tasked with starting the comm school. The best thing that happened to us was Colonel Del Caliano taking over the G6. He was very forward-thinking. He was very open-minded, and he knew that we had to do something different. And he asked me, he's like, "Hey, man," he's like, "What do we need?" I was like, "We need our own school." I said, we need our own school that produces an MOS. We need our own career path, and we need Soft for Life. So far, they've got 2 of those 3. They don't have Soft for Life yet for communicators, which is I don't understand it. If we're trying to follow a JSOC and a SOCOM model, they should be Soft for Life.
Meaning they don't go back out to other units?
No, meaning that these guys they work up, they become their subject matter expert, they do their deployment, and then their time is up at MARSOC, and then Marine Corps puts them back into, you take a communicator from MARSOC, from Special Operations Command, and now you're putting them back in 2nd Marine Division.
That's what you want to happen?
No, you don't want
Soft
that
for
to happen.
Life means they
Soft
stay
for
over
Life
there.
means they stay there
Yeah,
forever.
yeah. No, that makes sense to me.
Right. So there's, and again, so that's been the struggle for a communicator forever. Like there's a handful of us who took pride in being a communicator and staying in the community, but we fought to stay there. Yeah, so we looked at the SOROC, the Special Operations Radio Operator course for JCU, and that's great. But their course was approximately at the time was like 3 months long.
You need to chop it down.
But they do a lot of other things in there that we didn't need to do. They do driving, they do shooting, and we just took all that out, and we're like, let's just make communicators. So our goal was to make a radio chief, comm chief, starting at Lance Corporal. And starting at day 1. So how we made like the first 2 pilot. Well, I ran 2 pilots, and then we ran the official course before. The first pilot was rough. It was rough. Other than it got political as far as too many hands in it. People want to control. People were certain areas that it was, and we worked through it.
I suppose it. I said that's how it always is at some level, I suppose, in units, but.
Yeah,
kind of sucks.
And it was like, well, why are they doing it? We're the schoolhouse, and a little bit of back and forth, and it was when the leadership changed hands in the G6, then it got to be whatever, because you weren't serving 2 masters,
sure,
right?
Sure.
And one of those masters was just being spiteful, right? Mm-hmm. So we worked through it, and the one thing that we did was they would check in day 1. Morning is expectations, introduction, leadership, this, any other. This is conduct. This is what you're going to do. Go to launch, come back. Day 1, these guys are doing battery request, freak request, satellite request, training area request to do. We're
Just
making
pouring it on them.
We're making so now throughout the course at the end of each week they're going back and we're showing them how to now do this. This is how you do this. So we're giving them this template all the way through. And then I forgot when, but it officially became I think it's 0871. It's an MOS now.
Which is what is it?
The MNOC operator, Marine Network Operator. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
So what we did is we took it, and it wasn't just a field rate. We took data, and we took RTOs, and we made a hybrid. Mm-hmm. And it's funny is I had to go to, when I put on Master Sergeant, I had to go to Comm Chief school, and I went out there with who became my Comm Chief, one of my mentors, Master Sergeant Ty Barnes, and we were in class together. And we got this brief from another from a Master Guns and a Major, and they were talking about the future of the Marine Corps. By this year, our MOSs are going to merge because of the equipment and the data, and the comm school is going to actually evolve much faster as we move forward because we can't keep up with the technology, so we're kind of constantly have to change it. And they're like, so we're going to work towards this, but we're still probably 10 years away from it. And then like Ty was like, hey, he's like, we're actually doing that right now in MARSOC. And they're like, what? And he goes, they're like, who's doing that? And he goes, oh, Master Sergeant Holmes is. And they look at me and they're like, who told you could do that? And I was like, Master Sergeant Barnes did. And it's like, so it was, and they were like, and so now I'm giving a whole brief on MNOC. And they were like, so they were kind of like, is this for real? Because we had already run 2 pilots at that point. One pilot, I think. Yeah. And anyway, so next thing I know, the next day, I'm sitting in front of the colonel of Marine Corps C&E. Mm-hmm. And he's just like, they're like, hey, go report to CO. And I'm like, okay. I'm Master Sergeant. I walk in. Like, I still remember day one. You told a report, you report. Yeah. Stand in front of the desk, Master Sergeant Holmes reporting, and he's like, what are you doing? I was like, sir, I was told to report. And he goes, Master Sergeant, sit down. And I'm like, I'm not in trouble? And he goes, you're not in trouble. And he goes, I want to hear about this course. So,
I want to know how you're doing what you're doing. Yeah.
And he's like, so where did this idea come from? I was just like, years of suffering and not having gear and not having our own school and not being able to get to our own. So JCU was like, yeah, we'll gladly take you Marines. You guys are awesome, but we keep you for 2 years. Mm-hmm. That does us no good. Mm-hmm. All right. So, yeah, so that was that. And then came up to, I retired and then went to do it was a pretty long job interview for NSA, which was honestly, I think it was like 6-week course. Job interview. I'm not gonna lie, dude, it was so fun. It was so fun. And then at the end of it, they're like, yeah, it's gonna be about 9 months before we get you guys out the door. I'm like, okay. So we drive back. I'm driving back, and then one of my close friends, he was I was his team leader in Anglico. He replaced me in Alaska. I helped get him into JSOC. He was McCraven's RTO at the height of all that stuff. And he calls me up and he's like, hey, what are you doing? I was like, this. He goes, do you want a job? I'm like, doing what? He goes, working for me. I was like, doing what? He goes, being a comm chief. I'm like, cool. I'm like, what's
sure
it pay?
Do.
He's like, I was told it pays this. And I was like, really? And I was like, okay. I was like, am I combative or non-combative? He goes, non-combative. I'm like, are you for real? And he goes, yeah. I'm like, all right, cool. What do I do? He goes, and this was like Wednesday. He's like, can you be at the compound on Friday? And I'm like, yeah. He goes, all right, they'll be waiting for you. And I'm like, okay. So I went down. I had the job. They just needed to meet me. And then they sent me an offer like 3 days later. And like a week after that, I was down there doing all the in-processing and this, that, and the other, the ethical training crap. And then I think like, I don't know, 2 weeks after that, I was on like 90s. I did that for a year until they changed the contract. I ended up being a program manager. Mm-hmm. And then they changed the contract to 6-month rotations, and I just wasn't down with that. And then did the ISR stuff, and then got into
CONUS or OCONUS? This
is all like, I was going in Camp Alpha and back, and then ISR stuff was up at Mez, and then I got into the diplomatic stuff, and I did all that up in DeHook.
Did you enjoy that?
The GRS stuff?
Yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah. That was Lance Corporal responsibility with Colonel pay.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Good teams, good guys.
Yeah, it was good. It was good. It was cool. But it's funny is like, there's a few of us who were a little more into it than others. And then there was dudes who had been doing it for a long time. Like I had worked with some dudes who had retired in like 01 in 02 and 2000, 2001 had just retired, after like 20, 25 years. 9/11 happens, but they're still current, so they get picked up. And these are like original Blackwater, original Trip of Canopy guys. And then they now did 20 years. Now they're 20 years into contracting. And I'm like, I knew that I didn't want to be that. I was just doing it because I had some gas left in the tank and I wanted to do a little bit more. And I was single. And when my first gig, my now wife, we met after I think I was retired almost a year. I just it was really fun, and it got to a point where it just really
I started losing the fun.
It wasn't fun. It was getting really hard to leave my wife, and it was just, and that was right about 25 years of service, and it was like, that was it. And then that's when I had cancer, and so God got my attention, and I didn't really listen. And then He was like, "Okay, let me just turn this up just a little bit, bro." So,
well, let's if you don't mind, let's talk about that a little bit. What kind of cancer was it?
I had testicular cancer at 42, 43. And the sad part, the scary part with testicular cancer. So guys, I tell this to everybody, like, if you feel it, like, do not hesitate.
You mean like a lump. Or anything?
Yeah. Yeah. If there's if you have any hesitation, man, I'm telling you with that stuff, because it can spread so fast. One of the things that I was doing, because I was monitoring I was trying to biohack myself, and I did this through TRICARE. I was seeing a urologist pre and post appointments. So like within the first few days of being home and a few days before I left, I was going and I was doing blood work, trying to monitor to see, because my T started dropping, and was trying to figure out and watch it. So I had come home, and I see the urologist. I got my exam, did my blood work, everything was good, and it was a Saturday. I was going back to work on next Friday, and I'm in the shower, and I hit the lump, and like, dude, I almost like shit, threw up, and like
it hurt.
It hurt.
Okay.
It came out of nowhere. So
it was not there yesterday, and today
it was there.
Okay.
And so I got an ultrasound on that Monday. Tuesday, I was at the urologist getting the results, and they were like, all right, look, man, like, this isn't good. This is an aggressive tumor. He goes, and he was looking at my urologist. He goes, that wasn't there 2.5 months ago when I saw you. He goes, this is an aggressive tumor. I'm like, okay. I'm like, cool. I'm like, they're like, I'm sorry, what do we do? And they're like, we gotta remove it. I'm like, cool. The lump? And they're like, no, the whole testicle. And I'm like, all right. I'm like, can I still have kids? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, all right, cool.
Do it.
And they're like, are you okay? And I'm like, I'm fine. And they're like, the nurse was like, I think you might be in shock. I'm like, no, I'm good. I got, 2 is 1 is none. And I said, I can still have kids. I said, at this point, my wife and I have been trying to have kids. What we find out is that my body was actually growing the cancer. And to just learn that fertility rabbit hole is just nuts, right? So we do this, and they're like, are you sure you're okay? I'm like, I'm fine. I was like, I just got to figure out how I'm going to tell my wife and not have her freak out. And I'm like, all right. And I'm like, can I do, and this is Tuesday, I'm like, can I do surgery when I come back from work? And they're like, well, when are you going back to work? I was like, Friday. And like, well, where do you work? And I was like, Iraq. And they're like, well, when are you going to be back? I'm like, 90 days. They're like, you'll be stage 4 cancer in 90 days.
Really? Because it was growing
Because it was that fast. And I was like, really? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, all right, let's go. So Wednesday did pre-op, Thursday had surgery. Like, they did not mess around at all.
That's great.
Yeah. So then screwing around on the range one day, and we were doing some team stuff, and somebody wasn't listening. And I'm like, hey. And one of the dudes was like, hey, calm down, instructor 1. And I was like, and they're like, too soon? I'm like, no, that's kind of funny. And I made it my Instagram. So that's what instructor 1 is. Yes. Yeah. So no, so that was it. So I tell guys, man, I was like, you stay on top of this, because one of my best friends who I was just with, who, from 5th Force, and best man at my wedding, and he had testicular cancer. I think we're a couple years apart in age, but he had it, and he found it quick and active, but his had already spread. So he's gone. He's still dealing with it. He's doing better, much better.
Where did it spread to?
It spread up into his lymph nodes, up into his lungs and everything.
Oh,
yeah. So it can go up, right? It's not contained to the testicle. It can actually travel up, and that's where you want to stay on top of this. It's they did say if you could spin a wheel and pick the type of cancer that you have, this is the one that you want.
But find it.
But you got to, when you find it, do not put it off.
Find it quick. Yeah.
And I've said this for years, So yeah, we've gone all over from where I'm from to my nuts. So yeah,
man. Soup to nuts, they say.
Soup to nuts, man, literally. But
there's more to get to.
Yeah.
But so, hold on. Cutting the testicle off. That was it.
Yeah.
Well,
they go up. I think they take off I was 16 inches of I don't even know
the cord that goes up.
Tube, cord, yeah, the vein, whatever it is. But they go up just to make sure. So they'll go so if it's here, they'll go above it X amount, and then they just cap that.
How
off.
was recovery from that?
I had some stitches in my lower ab, and
not a big deal.
No, just little sore stomach.
Up in that area.
Yeah. And I don't know, slow moving for a few weeks, not overdoing it, not doing any heavy weight for a couple months, but still probably about 3 weeks in, I was already back doing mobility, light work, lightweight at the gym and everything like that. And then they were just kind of let pain be your guide on that. And then I had to do every 30 days, I was doing the CT scans, the barium paste and all that, which
just
is
making sure it's
chest x-rays, and then it went down to every 3 months, then it went to 6 months, then it went to once a year. Now I don't even do it. And now they're doing everything. They're and I know this because my wife's functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner and a blood chemist, and
that works. That helps.
Yeah, so the stuff that they're finding now in the blood and everything, and somebody knows how to read the map of your blood and your ailments and stuff like that. They can find stuff a little bit earlier.
I've heard about this. I didn't know if it's real or
not. Yeah. No, my wife does that. She does that.
That's rad.
That's what she does. Yeah. So
that's rad.
But
okay, we can move forward now. I just wanted to understand that, just in case my testicles grow.
Yeah.
Or something.
Well, and that's the thing too, is that typically doesn't affect men after 36. Right.
After.
Okay. So it potentially puts you. I'll continue to be considered high risk for other types of cancer for the rest of my life. Right. Mm-hmm. But as we move forward and we learn more things, and we learn if you remove certain things from your diet and your life and everything like that, these are also things that you can do to remove
mitigating factors,
getting affected with the disease. So it's just lifestyle choices.
100%. I want to talk about Riker, and I want to talk about your kids' camp.
Okay.
Before we're done.
Yeah.
In whatever order you want to go in.
Yeah. So, prior to retiring, I had multiple surgeries. So I've got, in layman's terms, I always say I have rubber bands that hold my shoulders together, and I got screws and fishing line in each elbow. And when I went to work when I got into the GRS, even with the NSA stuff, but when I went to the full time with the GRS, all the shooting we were doing, I was just fine that my support arm with traditional broom handle, wedge, nub, thumb over bore, my arm was painfully going numb on me. So I've always said that my superpower is that I'm left-handed. Growing up in Force in the CQB realm in the 90s, we didn't have internet, right? Mm-hmm. We had catalogs, right? Mm-hmm. And we had, word of mouth. We had guys hey, dude, I saw this guy had this, or I bought this when I was on leave. I got this at this school, this and the other. And that's how we got our stuff. But a lot of the gear back then came side-specific right-handed shooter stuff. Yep. So I was constantly always fidgeting, making my ruck better for my comm gear and all my other stuff, and adding pouches and clips, and then, you know, working on my pistol belt and all that stuff. I still have my original pistol belt in the attic. And, you know, so it's just I've always had to do things different being left-handed,
Yeah.
right? I really think that I'm super fortunate that my son Riker is a true southpaw, left eye dominant, left-handed.
Good. You don't have to tell him a different way.
No.
You can train him.
My wife, right-handed, left eye dominant.
Oh boy.
Shoots rifle, pistol, bow, all left-handed. So everybody, all the gear in our house is all set up the same.
Hey, that works.
Boom. All right. That's a big win.
That is a win.
So all that being said is I was trying to find something for me to shoot pain-free. I wasn't thinking anything beyond that. I wasn't thinking about a company. I wasn't thinking about, you know, anything other than I just want to be able to do my job at the level that I'm expected to do it. Why I made it to this point. And my one partner, Jake, we were actually going to see Korn one night, and he's like, "Hey man, you should invent something." And I was like, "Man, I got a notebook of ideas." And I was like, you know, this is right after I had cancer. And I was like, "Here's what I've been working on." He says, "Why don't you do something with it?" And I was like, "Look, man, I'm done working. I don't have the 30 grand. I'm not making, you know, $1,500 a day anymore." I was like, "I don't have the 30 grand just to throw at an idea right now." And he's like, "Well, how about we do this?" And we started our company, and there's 3 of us, the principal owners of the company. And so we started our process with a patent writer to make sure that we could even get out of the gate first. Sat down with the patent writer, gave him all my sketches, gave him all my prototypes that I had made to this point. And I think he came back to us maybe 5-6 months later. This is like this whole process when you're getting a patent. The thing is that you can try to do all this stuff yourself, but it's almost like, you know, you want to pay for certain things, right? Yep. Getting a patent writer is different than a patent attorney. A patent writer is like, they're nerds. Yeah. Like this dude is like got 3 computers going at the same time. He's in the books and he's trying to find, and he's putting in 500 different keywords and searches. And so he comes back and we sit down and we meet, and he goes, "Okay, man, you guys are either onto something or you're onto nothing." And we're like, "What does that mean?" He's just like, "There's nothing for the purposes of hand placement, forward grip on the side of the rifle. Everything is on the bottom of the gun." Yeah. And we're like, "All right, cool." So that let us know right then we can move forward. So then we already had the patent attorney. We put our first version in there. Now, for those aspiring to write a patent and learn about patents and all this, the U.S. Office of Patents, it's a game. It's a game. And your patent is going to get kicked back. It's going to get backed a couple of times, and you're going to have to request an appeal.
Attrition, right?
Yeah. It's money. It's money. Like, dude, it's every time you file, it's $3,500, right? Our patent attorney, doesn't matter if I'm on the phone with him for 1 minute and 15 seconds or 59 minutes and 59 seconds, it's $500, right? So you got to make this stuff count, right? To having a patent attorney, having the correct attorney. Like, I'm not going to have a divorce attorney represent me in a self-defense shooting if someone breaking into my house, right? You want to get the one who's good at that job, right? So we did that. While we're doing that, now that we know we can go forward, the moment you file, you have patent pending status. Boom. All right, that's great. We can move forward that process. That we don't even really have to water that garden right now. It's going to grow, all right, on its own. So now we already had our engineer firm in Raleigh picked out. They were young, they're innovative, but we went with them because they are young, because they were innovative, but also because they had done stuff in the tactical industry. Okay. And that was a plus right there. Sure. And they came back, we went back, and they gave some prototypes, and we're like, holy crap. So they made me some 3D prototypes, and we started testing them out and everything like that. And that's pretty much the original grip that we have. And then we went from there. Our ultimate goal was to always put the controls for lights and lasers into the grip. Yeah. And we call that the Riker control, CTRL, like on your keyboard. And control your weapon, control your gear. And so we did this just to shoot pain-free. So while we're prototyping and we're doing this, when I'm getting as many dudes out to the range, I'm giving these to guys I work with, and I'm like, if it breaks, don't shit talk it. it's not final quality.
Sure.
It's like only 2-layer 3D print. It's not even the nylon infused NE66, right? Just try it.
These are just literally prototypes to refine
rough
it.
looking and everything. And so we get there and everything. So then we're get more and got more. I'm doing these ranges, these demo days, and we're out there one day, and one dude's like, "Hey man, you think we could put this on a shotgun?" And I'm like, "Yo, let's do it." And we put it on a shotgun, and we're like, "Holy crap!"
It was nice.
9 days. It was like amazing, right? So then we're like, dude, then we put it on a Scar Heavy, and we're like, holy crap. So then we started figuring this out, is that heavier the gun, higher the caliber, full auto or suppressed, you recognize the benefit instantly. It eliminates weight, it eliminates fatigue, and it eliminates the heat. No glove, no heat, right? So instead of traditional means like holding the rifle up, right? Hold this, you're all doing the same thing. You're still holding the weight of the gun up, and you're isolating the individual muscle group right here. This is where the fatigue comes in, long-term damage, right? So if you think I'm reaching across my body like this, just by putting your hand out to the side, I'm no longer holding up, I'm pulling back. Because I'm pulling back, I'm using shoulders back, I'm using large muscle groups. Improved blood flow, that's eliminating the fatigue. Because I'm pulling back, that's eliminating the recoil. The recoil management is improved. Right now, take that rifle away, and my hand is now in the same exact position as when I shoot pistol. So now I can shoot pistol, rifle, shotgun, exact same position, right? My support. So you're doing one less thing. This is actually Rudy Reyes. It's like when I introduced him to it, and he goes, he's the one who said that. He's like, holy crap, you're doing one less thing. You're doing the same thing for everything. You're doing one less thing. And I'm like,
I don't think the regular person understands what one less thing.
so instead of
No, I mean,
yeah.
how beneficial it is to a shooter to have to do one less thing.
Yeah, so I shoot pistol like this, then you shoot rifle like this, and then you shoot a shotgun like this. And you're changing your body.
Yep.
Now I can do same body mechanics for all three.
Yep.
So, and we've got some videos of our special operations guys running it on saws and like shooting and moving with a saw. And there's like no muzzle rise. Full auto press, and just no muzzle rise at all. But yeah, so this is the grip. The original grip comes with a Picatinny mount.
Okay.
And it's so loud.
And these it is.
So it's ambidextrous. So you take the horizontal set screw out. Can you see that? You good?
Yeah. So this is your camera right
Okay.
here. Yeah.
So you take the horizontal set screw out, you flip it around, and
Okay.
it comes with a Picatinny mounting bracket. It's a castle nut system. We made it marine proof, so it only goes on one way.
Yep.
All right. My partners are Navy. There's a lot of jokes. They're usually gay, and I don't get them because, well, sad part is both my partners are retired Navy. One's prior enlisted to officer. They're both officer retired. I have more sea time than both of them combined.
I was gonna say, you're out of all the people that come on my show, you probably have more seat time than almost all of them. Like, yeah, I don't have people like that. My seat time was stopping for a refill in a 53 on the what was it, the Eisenhower? No, the Iwo Jima.
Oh, damn.
Fuel up and then leave.
Yeah.
That was it. No seat time at all. Which,
Man.
you know what? I tell people this a lot on my show, so for you that watch, you know what I'm about to say. I just wanted combat.
Yeah.
And not all mine were combat, but that's what I wanted.
Yeah.
So when I came back from doing all that, I'd be an instructor, I'd get out. I look back and kind of wish that I caught a Mew and kind of wish that I did a triple canopy jungle patrol and, monsoon season, because I hear about all these things from, buddies and, different things. I train the Marines over here still on Lejeune, so I hear about those kind of sea stories, and it almost makes me wish I had at least experienced it.
Yeah.
I say that, and 9 times out of 10, people that had a lot of sea time are like, no, you don't. You're good.
I don't know, man. In the 90s, that's all we had.
Yeah.
It's funny is that my neighbor, good friend of mine, he's a Lieutenant Colonel Select. He'll put on next year.
Oh, yeah.
He's been in 14 and a half years. And I'm like, I've been retired longer than you've been in. He goes, yes, because you're old. And I was like... I can't believe I'm getting ready to call you a boot. It's crazy. But so with the grip, the next thing we came up with was our MLOC mount. So when we first came out, the Picatinny rail was still the primary thing for the military. Our goal is to get this on every Marine's gun, every soldier, sailor, airman's gun, right? And then we started realizing like key mod was dying, and so we didn't do anything with key mod. And then MLOC is like now the premier. So what we did is we came up with the MLOC mount.
Oh yeah.
So the MLOC mount has the Riker logo on one side. So it doesn't matter if you're left or right-handed shooter. As long as the Riker logo is on the top, the grip will fit the castle nut system correctly. And it's that simple. And there's a little nub right there in the back to hold it. It's centered inside of your slot on your MLOC, and you got your T nuts right here. And then in the slot right here, you have the set nut to replace the horizontal set screw, right? And then this is version 2 of our sling. And I'll do you a demo. I brought my gun.
Okay.
But this is 2 QD mounts, and it's retention systems. Our sling is designed to be worn tight. So I'll gladly say and I'll demonstrate that. But these are yours. I brought those for you.
Oh no, thank you so much.
Absolutely,
dude. Absolutely. Well, I'll put them on over at Lejeune and preach the gospel.
So you can try that out and you can see it. The one thing we understand that the grip looks different, right? And it's like, oh, it's odd and everything. It's going to get caught. And you're saying, if your hand is on it, it's not going to get caught. And it's not going to get caught any more than your barrel, than your can, than your front sight post, than your laser. Yep. So it looks different, but all you got to do is try it. And we say with an AR platform, 2 mags, some singles, some side to side, some like center, left, right, some double taps. You got it. Shotgun on a pump shotgun, 16 shells, right? Typically 2-3 cycles of your tube. You got it. On a semi or a magazine fed shotgun on a bullpup, holy crap. I tell people all the time, you put the grip on a shotgun, it's going to change your life.
No shit.
Yeah, like it's epic.
Okay.
I tell people all the time too, I'm like, I honestly I teach shooting all the time. The only thing I really care about shooting is my bow and shotguns.
There it is.
I don't even I love teaching and all that stuff, but magazine fed shotgun has really changed my life. Yeah. Like it's just amazing.
I don't even know if I've ever fired one.
Right outside of Southport, other side of Wilmington.
Okay.
So you have to come down. I'll get you that info. But we're going to do that. So you can come on out, and it's a shoot move course. Each course of fire is 25 engagements, clays and steel. So, and I got Dead Rabbit Collective is coming out with. They're bringing out you don't even have to have a shotgun. They're bringing half dozen shotguns.
I mean, I have one. I don't have a magazine fed one.
No, so first time you run through will be with a pump. Second time will be with a semi, and the third time you run through will be with a mag fed. Okay. So you're getting fundamentals, but now you're learning different techniques, and you're finding what when you start getting that elevated heart rate, trying to load that semi and that pump, and then you get that mag fed, because we got a cool Wilder Tactical. I call it my John Wick belt. So Wilder Tactical, they're a veteran-owned company in Gastonia. I have one of their belts, and it's got their multi-fit mag, and it's got 7 5-round mags, shotgun mags on it. So you start with a 10-round mag, and you got 35 on your belt.
Man.
You're good. You're good. Yeah. But
that's nuts.
Yeah. So what I've got here is and we've partnered with Mitchell Defense. So Mitchell Defense is out of Glenside, PA, and he's a recon corpsman, and all of his guns, he does a lot of things different. Mm-hmm. Thermal fits the barrels to the upper. Okay. Out of the box, these guns are half MOA. Right. Oh, wow. There's no tolerance zero tolerance in the buffer in the upper. There's no rocking in the bull carrier group in the upper. The bull carrier groups in the uppers are treated with armor loop, so they're meant to be run dirty and dry. Everything comes with the Radiant ambidextrous charging handle, ambidextrous controls, and you have your option when you order your guns to do a drop-in Geisley or a drop-in American Gold Standard trigger, right? So it's a higher end gun on everything other than this is the Rat Dog. This is the 9mm carbine, runs on Glock mags. All of the other uppers, 5.56, 308, the Creedmoor, everything like that has an ambidextrous bolt release on there. So his stuff is awesome. So I got a couple features on here. The other thing I have is I have a Valiant Dynamics Evolver buttstock. So this thing is not a brace, it's a stock, but you have this adjustable, aggressive backplate right here, so you could turn this so it hooks into your shoulder pad. But I will tell you, since I've been running this 2 years now, this just getting your purchase, your reference point, you're not fighting that blade. It just seems to be a lot more natural.
It's like using it as an anchor point.
Pretty much, yeah.
From your shoulder, yeah.
Yep. So what we have here is the Riker control. Now the Riker control is, is that too a little lower?
Oh yeah, right there is
okay.
good. Yeah.
So the Riker control comes with texture, and it's got these cable management clips and it's on both sides. So it is ambidextrous, but when you do order this, when you order it, you need to order it for a left or right-handed shooter, okay? So what that means is if I'm left-handed, which I am, you order left-handed shooter, it'll come set up to mount on the right side.
Gotcha.
And vice versa. It's confusing. It confuses us, and that was like one of the hardest things we had to figure out how.
I seen it on your site, how it was explained. I thought you did a good job explaining it on the site. Yeah.
And then we have, right up here, we have our cable management clips. So what these do is they have tracks on the back side so you can run your cable up so you don't need zip tie, tape, and rubber bands anymore. And you get some really nice bump protection on there. Then when you want to clean stuff, change stuff, move stuff around, they just pop right off. You don't have to cut stuff and worry about nicking your cable, right? Right here, I just got a light on the side. This is the Riker control, the light model. So what this does is the Riker control comes with a single lead light or single lead laser option. And we put the button right there into the thumb so you can activate it with your thumb and on and off. So the single lead light comes with a Surefire tail cap or pigtail connector, and the single lead laser comes with your L3 crane type connector. Now, we have found that crane type connector is super versatile. You can get these Ariasca mounts, so you could run it with, if you have a Streamlight. I prefer Streamlights over Surefire price, and I just think that they're a little brighter, and but nothing wrong with a Surefire, right? But the Streamlight has proprietary tail caps and pressure pads, so you can get an Ariasca mount, and you can get it for the Surefire tail cap or the L3 crane type connector. If you like Holosun, all the Holosun light laser 3-in-1 combinations all run off a crane type connector. So it's a real because of the combination of the Ariasca mounts, which you can literally find on Amazon. Makes it super versatile. Now, I'll take these off.
Yeah, no, please.
All right, so the sling is designed to be run 2 points, right? So we run behind the pistol grip and behind the Riker grip, right? Okay. So nice narrow base. So again, I grew up on an MP5, and on the MP5, we kind of had that 3-point sling because it was front here, and then you had that little slider.
Yeah.
So typically, when you want to come up on target with your traditional sling, you'd have to release that tension, right?
Yes.
You'd have to release the tension, come up, shoot. Now, if you transition to pistol, your rifle's hanging down in front of you, right? With ours, all you have to do is aggressively punch out and let it sit right back into your shoulder, right? So let me pop that up a little more. Push out, right, with the meaty portion of your palm, and let it sit right back into your shoulder. And now what it's doing is the sling is actually taking even more
locked in,
more pressure off the gun. So now you have that ability to, like, and one of the things that people say is that they try to replicate the drive stop that you get with the grip right here, vice this or going over. This right here, now you're there, transition to pistol, and my rifle is right where it needs to be, nice and tight. So we say when you get your sling, set it in a t-shirt, nice and tight, and then you can always back it out as you add layers of equipment.
Is your stock? Was that Wilder Tactical?
No, the stock is Valiant Dynamics.
Okay,
and that's a veteran-owned company out of Michigan.
You said Valiant.
Valiant Dynamic, yeah, and it's the Evolver. And all these guys are on Instagram, but yeah, I think I use products that add value.
No, I love it. I love the idea of it.
Yeah. So
not bulky, not bracy, but just enough. And I like the fact that back blade swivels. Yeah.
It's set up for a lefty, man.
No, it's all good.
Yeah, just pull it. There you go.
And then you just set the blade however you feel comfortable once you're up in. Yeah.
And then you just depress your thumb, activate that light.
Yeah, I like that. I'm gonna put it on my rifle tomorrow and run it all day at training. For sure.
But yeah, man, like I'm down the road, man. So like, if you guys need us to come down and like do a demo or anything like that, man, we'll gladly Glad to take care of you.
Definitely. Man, I'm gonna push it out to my whole community, and you guys on the podcast, follow the podcast. I'll put it down in the bio, underneath his bio. That way you can go straight to Riker USA, check out all the things that they got going on, and support a veteran-owned business at the same time.
And use the code Riker20.
Use the code Riker20.
Yep. But yeah, so the grip came about that way. Just in right now we're not a big deal, but so when we started, 3D printing was not. We're coming up. We're just over 9 years since starting the company. Then to when we released, and we actually released on my son's 1-year-old birthday.
That's awesome.
On his first birthday, and he just turned 8 last Thursday. So we're coming up on 8 years on the market, nine and a half years in business, right? And the company is named after Riker, and Riker's named after Jeff Starling. We already talked about that. But the 3D printing model 8 years ago is not where it is now.
Right.
And this is 3D printing. And
we do 3D printing for some of our guns and bolts and stuff.
The control is 3D printed. You could not replicate that texture in injected molding.
Check.
That aggressive texture, or the detail of the cable management that's built into the grips. So that's given us the opportunity to make advancements. We're working on a project with Army Research Laboratory, and literally just waiting for funding. But we're putting the controls for the e-collar for the canine handlers, vibrate, shock, audible, in there, so they could stay on target and control the dog at the same time.
Is that Bluetooth?
Mm-hmm.
Fuck yeah.
Mm-hmm. So we can literally change that. We can do Bluetooth, push to talks. We can do multiple things in there. We've got some other things, but we're also right now in the process of redesigning and developing a micro version of it. So, of the grip.
Of the grip.
So yeah, so just trying to
2-finger or 3-finger,
just
something
a little bit more back to the original moldable plastic ones that I made.
Okay. Because
we have the advantage now of being able to do almost instantaneous, with the 3D printing and not have it. So why is that important? So a lot of times, being a veteranpreneur, right, and manufacturing, and you don't know what you don't know. Mm-hmm. And when you're creating something and you're inventing something that didn't exist, that was an idea in your head, and now it's real, right? The internet has no shortage of experts, right? Oh, it's too expensive. Oh, this. Oh, you should do this. You should. Yes. You know what? Yes, but here's the process, right? So why don't you do this? Well, the mold to one, all of our stuff has to be sourced, manufactured, and made in the United States. I'm not going to outsource it. That's bottom line, right? Even though we were knocked off on Alibaba, which was kind of funny. Because we joked around one day. We're like, how about we make a secondary company? We make a cheaper version of it, and we just sell it. We were saying, let's just sell this thing for airsoft. Mm-hmm. And Alibaba beat us to it. So,
really?
Right, yeah, but whatever. But the thing is injected molding, getting that mold made. You have soft tools and hard tools, right? So soft tools, you're only going to get so many presses, and then things are going to start to change on it. And you might start running to more manufactured defects, right? So then you want to get a hard tooling. Well, hard tooling now, the price just jumped $20,000, right? So then, we thought we were going to be able to retool the hard tooling, but then turns out afterwards, for what we wanted to do with adding the control feature in there, we couldn't. And then it was when we met our good friends down in College Station, Texas, Nico Labs, another veteran-owned company. I got introduced to them. He handed me a part, and he's like, yeah, that's 3D printed. And I was like, there's no way. And he goes, it is. And we've been working with them.
Because then you can just make your
tweaks,
minor adjustment, and print it again.
So now cost on 3D printing is a little bit higher, but it's, so you get your give and take, right? Yeah. So there's pros and cons to both. The 3D printing allows us to be a lot more versatile, mobile, and more instant. And so we're starting to take advantage of that now as we move forward into a bunch of other projects. But it does pave the way for a lot of things going forward. I mean, they're 3D printing houses, so
insane.
Yeah. So, but so that's kind of the company. We started out, we had one thing. I think we have 14 SKUs now between the slings. The slings typically come in black multicam, black, and traditional multi-cam cam. We have a couple. We have a few. We did a limited run of God's Plaid M81. We got some of those on our website, and we have a limited run of Vietnam Tiger Stripe coming out.
Right on.
Probably they should be getting delivered in about 3 weeks.
On these?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And we had some help from our tier 1 guys to help us redesign this. This is version 2 of our sling, which we're kind of transitioning in just to the Riker sling because we don't offer version 1 anymore. But we gave them version 1. They gave us our feedback from that sling. We did all the changes that they asked for. Now they're running our sling, so that's pretty.
Oh, yeah.
That's pretty cool there. So so we're we're just chipping away. We know we have a niche product. We know it kind of looks funny, but people used to think seatbelts were weird.
Yeah.
People, we didn't always have rear view mirrors and side mirrors on cars, right?
It's interesting because most people should be open-minded enough when it comes to it. Like maybe it's wisdom or maybe it's age or whatever, but young guys might be hesitant to change something up or say something looks weird. But even now, like I was asking a Marine how he was shooting today while I was training him, training his guys, he was doing something a different way. I'm like, hey, why do you do that? And he told me, well, they ran a test and they tested this, and this, and this knee should be up and this is why.
Yeah.
And I was like, but open-minded enough to say, well, tomorrow when I'm alone, I'm going to practice that and see if that's real. If we could all do that, then you give things a try and you actually put your own due diligence into making your decision instead of just reading the whatever TikTok has to say.
Yeah. The thing for me is I always tell people in all my classes too, because I train soccer moms and special operators, and I always say is that you have to remain a student. And, there is no right way. There's a couple of people that I love and I follow. Mickey with Carry Trainer on Instagram. Mickey's incredible, and he's just like, if you look at his background, no military, no law enforcement, and the dude is just a phenomenal instructor and just a preacher of just goodwill and good knowledge. You got Mike with Knockout Lights, and there's a whole bunch of guys out there that are putting. You got Mike CCT Solutions, Mike Pinone, who's like legend. And I just you listen to these guys and for me, it's just like you can learn from everybody. I learn from all my students. And, when I run classes, I have large classes. I go to my pool. I hit the guys up at, so I get some Raiders down there and help. And for me, I love having the young guys out there because I want to get like their perspective, and I want to see how what I'm teaching, is it still relevant? Is it similar to what they're doing and this, that, and the other? And and it's pretty cool to see that there's still like there's some minor things that are slightly different, but fundamentals are fundamentals. Yeah. And it's anything you do, you need to remain a student. And I always and one of the things I always said, and like even when we created MNOC, I said the course curriculum is written in pencil. Yep. Because it is going to change. And I says, if you have a Marine who does 2 deployments and comes back through for a refresher and it's the same course that he took 3 years prior, it's like, you guys have messed up. So that's kind of like, the big thing is just that always, lean in, be forward thinking. Is a good friend of mine, Bert Sorn, Sornex Exercise Equipment in South Carolina. He always says, he's like, be present and lean in. And just lean into it. And it might not work for you, but because it doesn't work for you doesn't mean it won't work for somebody else, right? And like this is a crazy thing is I've got arthritis in my thumbs right here. One of the absolute worst places you could have it if you're a shooter and loading mags. I have prided myself on never using a mag loader. I now rely on a mag loader, right? Because it saves my hands. But I use Speed Bees is this company. They reached out to me a couple years ago, and I was just like, man, I don't need it. But you know what? I don't need it. But I have some older clients that are coming out. But guess what? Now I'm using it, and I'm going to tell you, the cool thing with it is my son has been using it since he was 6. He thinks this is awesome. I hope it's not going to stay this way. He loves loading mags. I'm like,
yeah, that's awesome.
Here you go, dude.
Here's some more.
But he can sit there with the Speed Bees and he can load the mag.
Yeah.
So you find different ways to do things. There's a company out there I represent now called Black Steel, and it's a thumb brake. It's like a gas pedal on the side, but it's collapsible. It folds into the side of the pistol. When it's in your holster, you pull out, it pops out. So when you're pushing your support thumb forward, you have a brake. And why I like this. So a friend of mine, Kevin Dixie, who's the real NOC on Instagram, he and I were chatting the other day, and he's like, he uses a different brand. He goes, I like it for this. I don't like it for this. And I like it because it gives you, for a new shooter or a shooter with some type of hand ailment, it gives you an automatic repeatable. It gives them that muscle memory point that they're not
anchor point
searching, especially when you have someone who doesn't necessarily have thousands of rounds in dry fire and they're coming to you for the first time. It's allowing you to give them a great grip every single time. So I have a bunch that, like, I'll put on specific guns, you know, when they come out, and I see it, and I'll tell you, you can literally see a difference in someone who's struggling with grip and recoil management. Without it, then when you put it on, you can see a difference in not just the difference in, like, looking at the gun in their hand.
The groups.
You can see the eye test on the paper.
Yeah.
So, like, I like innovation. I like forward thinking. I'm constantly changing backpacks and, you know, off body carry bags, and just always looking for something better. Constant. And honestly, for me, you know, my wife she's the same, but she's just like, yes, this is my husband. He's the perpetual 17-year-old, and hey, I wear that with pride, you know. But
it's the culture, man. Bigger, faster, stronger. 1% better. Yeah.
So, and you know, the thing too is I don't need, you know, I'm teaching my son all of this stuff, but I don't need him to. He's going to walk his own path, and I'm teaching this stuff because I think a lot of this stuff is valuable skills. And the stuff that I'm teaching him, my dad taught me how to shoot, but you got to think, in the 70s, the type of gunfighting and the weapons and the equipment, it didn't exist.
Yeah.
Right. And, you know, so it's just, I've always called it the evolution of warfare, or our motto in Riker USA is the progression of tradition. And we're continuing trying to move forward. So my son already has a strong foundation in, like, I've ruined him. Like, we were watching the TV show The Rookie, and it's entertaining. And this one detective, she's running by, and she muzzle sweeps her partner and comes up over, and he goes, "Can you believe that?" He goes, "Dad, the third safety rule." She goes, "She just muzzle swept her," and I'm like, man, I'm a papa moment right here. Right? This is good. You know, but so that's, you know, like that's the kind of stuff I need him aware of, because firearms, and this is when jumping a little bit here, but I get this question a lot from my students. Hey man, I got guns, I got kids, what am I supposed to do? I'm like, stop doing that. Stop doing that. Stop hiding it. Okay? Because if you hide it, they're going to try to find it. Right? You need to teach the kids it's a tool, not a toy. You need to teach them to respect it, not fear it. And there's a difference. And I says, and if it's in the house, everybody in the house needs to know about it. You can't hide it. And I says, and they need to understand this. And I says, and it starts with education. Right? It's the biggest thing. And they're like, oh, and you know, it's just, and I can't take credit for saying this, but you teach your kid, don't put your finger in the light socket. Don't touch the stove when it's hot. Right? Don't jump out of a moving car. Right? Don't jump out of the window. Like, these are the things that will kill you. Don't do these things. It's the same with a firearm. You have to teach it. So we started with Nerf guns. You know, it was just targets when he was younger. And when he would get a little crazy, you know, wing one and shoot dad in the face, well, he would lose the gun. Now, with full-on Nerf wars, now we've elevated to gel blasters, which are amazing.
They're pretty dope.
Oh my gosh, dude. We just did that last week. So for his birthday. Oh my gosh, dude. I'm already looking at, like, I need a better gun than him.
Bigger gel blaster.
Yes. I need one that looks cheap, but it's better, because he's gonna want it, you know. But no, so, but that's awesome. You know, and that's kind of that stuff. But the funny thing too is like with him, and he wears this like badge of honor. He's like, yes, this company is named after me, but he goes, this is why you want it. And he's just like,
he can run it too.
Yeah. So it's on, he has it's on his BB gun. He's got an AK, man, BB guns, dude, from when I was a kid.
For real, huh? Oh yeah. My kids all have them. They're way different.
He's got this AK, this Crossman AK, and it's like, we got extra mags, the CO2's in the mag, 25 round mag, and it's just like, and I'm like, what?
Oh yeah.
So he's got that. He's got an MP5 22. He's got a grip on that. You know, Wilder Tactical made him a little kid's M81 belt. He's got his little Walther P22.
Yes.
With 5 mags on it. So he dry fire practices. You know, But he'll never go into the Army. He doesn't do anything without asking. And when he gets the guns, he always comes up, grabs me or my wife, and like shows clear on the gun, and then then he's good. And because I'm all about the confidence building. I want him to be able to like, Dad, can I go in the Armory? Yes, you can. What are you getting? I want to get this. So yeah, it's just I think it's culture. It's no different than teaching your kids how to read, how to write, how to tie their shoes, how to eat right, how to work out, all these things. It's all these things. He has a bow. He's got a Hoyt Cobalt.
Okay.
And he got that when he was 6, but he's gonna have that bow till he's 12. That bow is gonna grow with him. That's why we bought that bow. My wife was like, "You paid $800 for a bow for a 6-year-old." I bought a bow. I bought a bow that I'm not gonna have to buy another bow for 6 years.
Yep.
She's like, "Oh, okay." So shout out to Extreme Outfitters.
Shout out.
And yeah, those are my boys. I've known Zach forever.
Right on.
But yeah, so it's the grip and being a veteranpreneur is not without its challenges, and the one big thing is I think is network is a big thing for us. And Nathan Mitchell Defense and I, we linked up about 2 years ago. We've been joined at the hip ever since, and like I literally just got 6 rifles today. Picked up 6 rifles today from Wilmington Tactical, and that he sent down to me because we're gonna be doing a lot more creation stuff coming up this year.
Right on.
But I think one of the things we've also created was we call it the TJL, the Tactical Justice League, and we're trying to bring to our table. We have weapons, we have accessory, we have gloves. Another veteran-owned company, Triple Gamut. I brought these in to show you. We have we've got optics, we've got protein bars, we've got uniforms, we've got clothing, we've got t-shirts. We're just trying to bring all these different things together, right? And it's pretty cool being able to. One of the things I like to do is like when I do a class where we're doing content and stuff like that, I want to bring in as many people as I can, because when I post a video and then we collaborate and you post the same video and this and here, so my stuff's being seen with your stuff and their stuff and all that. So just to beat the algorithms and for the record, I wish I didn't have to have social media.
Look, man, I'm with you.
But it's that necessary evil.
It is if you want to grow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So,
and you want your reach to grow.
Even as messed up as the restrictions are. So, but I'm hopeful on that stuff. But yeah, man. So that's kind of the Riker stuff. We're moving forward. We're still, small business, still in business, and I know the economy has been rough for across the board. Talking to our friends, our strategic partners, and other guys in the industry, and sales have been challenging for the last year, and we kind of think that as we get closer, we're thinking like November is going to be probably a good sales month.
I think November is going to be a great month for a lot of people.
Yeah, so
I think the Fed's going to drop some points again in November. Is what I hear.
Yeah, so
maybe some breathing.
Provided them dock workers don't strike tomorrow.
Yeah, that's going to be rough if that actually goes down.
I'm filling my tank up on the way home because it was 267 in Hampstead.
I just filled up because of that. Yeah, dude.
So tomorrow morning is going to be like 380. But
if they do it.
Yeah. And then summer camp.
Yeah, talk to it.
So we good? Like time?
I'm not pressed, brother.
Okay, cool. So we homeschool our son, and he did preschool at one of the churches, and it was great. My nephew and him are 3 months apart. They did that together, and we applied to put him into Wilmington Christian. And at the time, my son had long hair. Like it was his choice. He had beautiful curly hair, and we always told him, "He's good. Like, if you want to cut your hair, cut your hair. If you don't, you don't." Yeah. And then he hit a point after they graduated preschool. He's like, "I want a Chris Pratt haircut." And we're like, okay. We're like, well, look, dude, you've been growing this hair your whole life. If you cut it off, it's going to take you 5 years to grow it back. So do you want to just cut a little bit off, or you want to cut? He's no, I want it all gone. And we're like, all right. So here's the thing. That there's kids out there that don't have hair. There's kids out there who are sick, and they take hair and they make wigs for them. And he was like, what? So we called St. Jude, and St. Jude recommended wigs for kids. Okay. And so he had 25 inches long was his hair. We braided it and donated 8 21-inch ponytail.
Dang.
To wigs for kids.
That's awesome.
That was his choice. So, when we went to Wilmington Christian, we found out afterwards that little boys can't have hair below their collar. So he didn't get in for kindergarten.
Oh, no.
Didn't bother us. We just took that as a sign from God that that's not where he needed to be. And then we made a decision to homeschool. That's been a challenge because my wife used to be a teacher. She was a principal. And the biggest thing for us is we had to unlearn what we thought was the proper way to teach. Well, we thought because all the other kids are in school for this long, we have to do the same thing, but that's not how you homeschool. And we've learned that, and we're getting better. And it's still not without our challenges. But I tell people, it's like you have a football field, and you plant all kinds of seeds, and you water that whole garden all day long. But you might have something down here at the 10, on your 10-yard line that's growing, and then you might have something on the 30-yard line that's growing, but everything else in between and beyond isn't growing. That doesn't mean it's not going to grow. So you just continue to water it, and it'll eventually grow. So like he right now he'd traditionally be in second grade. He's in fifth grade math. He's in on our curriculum that he does, and he's in like third grade science. And
it's okay that they're different there.
Yeah. But the thing is, it's like, so his abilities are different. Like, so he was riding a bike with no training wheels before he turned 2.
Yeah.
Like, so it's just like things are just different. Kids are all different, not all these kids. And we're learning these things. So we can't compare him to our kids, and our kids can't compare to him.
Yeah. I would say with the bastardization of public schooling, I hate that my kids are in public school right now. And it's not going to be much longer that they stay in public school.
Yeah.
But so I agree.
I think
it might be the way. I
joke around and I say the main reason that we homeschool is to keep me out of jail, because I'm not going to be very tolerant of certain things being taught.
I mean, that's where I feel like I am. I hate going to the school. I hate going in the classroom now.
We were in Ireland in June for our friend's wedding. And we spent a few weeks over there, and they got married in a Titanic hotel, and right across the street from the museum, right across the street from where they actually built it and launched it up in Belfast. And we're walking into the Titanic Museum, and Riker's like, I wonder if they're going to tell us what really happened. Because you know what happened. And we were just like, that's our kid, Yeah. But so we'd have like my niece and my nephews, and friends would come over and everything like that. And they, in the summertime, whatever, and parents would all be like, dude, you need to do a summer camp. And I'm like, you're out of your damn mind. Mm-hmm. They're like, no, seriously, my kid came home. They're like, Mr. Ron taught us this. We did this. We were starting fires. We were like, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, that's just every day in our house. Yeah. Like, I'm not doing a camp. I'm not taking responsibility for other people's kids. I'm not dealing with that stuff. I'm like, nope, you can come to my house all day long. We'll play. Your kids come over here. They're going to learn. They're going to work. We're going to do some stuff. We're going to work them hard, and then they're going to be able to play, and we're going to learn. That's how it is. And I'm like, I'm not doing it. November 2022, my dad had got sick, and my dad passed away. And up until that point, like, my son and my parents at the time, they lived 17 hours north. They live up northern New Hampshire. My mom now lives down with us. And we'd see them a couple of times a year and FaceTime a lot and everything like that. And Riker and my dad had a really strong bond. And it was, my dad passed away, and we're going through this. And Riker was like, he really still leans into, like, he's like, Pop teach you that? And I'm like, he did. And he's like, cool, and he like absorbs it more, and he's always asking and just, hey, did you and Pop used to do this or that and the other? And he goes, or he's like, Pop would like this, right? And I was like, yeah, because we just went to Galaxy's Edge. We were down in Florida for a week, and dude, that was amazing. Yeah, like I'm a Star Wars nerd. And
yeah.
Like, oh my God, I was just like watching him, and we built the lightsaber. Oh gosh. Anyway, so it was January 2023. Do I have my years? Yeah, and it was 2023, and I woke up. It was, I don't know, it was before SHOT Show. I remember that. I woke up. It was like Saturday, and I heard God's voice say, bro, I don't care about your feelings. You're doing a camp. And I went downstairs and I got one of my notebooks and I started writing out a timeline of what I've done with Riker, what I want to do, and what I think I could do in a day. And then I sat there and I was just like, that's one day. Made it a week. So I sat there and everything like that. Fast forward to an event that I do every February with Sornex called Winter Strong. And it's a bow-driven event focused on fitness and strength. And it is the most rewarding, spiritual, like positive, incredible thing I do every year. And they had a guest speaker lined up, and I'm sitting in the front because I wanted to hear him, but it wasn't the guy. It was another dude filling in. He had no idea who he was speaking to. This crowd of 300 like alphas, and it was not going very well. Bert was like, Ron, come on up and talk. Tell us about how you do things. And I just gave like a whole thing on situation awareness, how we set up our vehicles, how we set up our home, and just things that you can do to prepare the family and make, keeping the kids' faces out of devices when you're on long drives and this, and, short drives and all this, and learning how to train, navigate, train, associate, and be able to say what you see and do all the medical stuff and all this. And afterwards, the whole day, like that whole weekend, I had people like, hey, what's your website? And I'm like, for what? For like all that stuff you're talking about? I was like, no, that's just like how we live. Like, you can come hang out with us and I can teach you. And so then my buddy Don, who owns Clean Eats down in Wilmington, they started in Wilmington. And Don, he's like, hey man, he's like, I didn't know you were doing all this kind of stuff. And I was like, I've always done this stuff. And he's like, look, man, he goes, Yvonne and I just bought a 190-acre farm. And we started the Clean Eats Foundation. It's a nonprofit. He's like, we want to do stuff with kids camps, combat childhood obesity, and get kids outside, but we don't really know how to do it. And I was like, I'm starting a summer camp. And he goes, where are you running it? And I told him about the camp. And I said, in my yard? He goes, how big's your yard? And I was like, I don't know, 3/4 acre. And he goes, how about you do it at the farm? And so what we did is we got together and planned it out, and we ran a couple pilots, and and ran some camps this summer. And it's, we're working towards, so we do 10 kids, biological boys and girls. I have to put that out there. We're very polite and very clear in our application process.
Sure.
Our day starts with a prayer and a pledge of allegiance every day. We want these kids to have gratitude. We want them to understand the importance of being led by faith, but also, God, family, country. We think that the problem, one of the things is we as parents, we as veterans, we as community leaders have failed. We have failed our children, and we have failed to lead them. And we have sat back and allowed the government to hijack our education system. We've allowed them to hijack the kids. And the problem with that is you're seeing it right now. Yep. We're seeing it now, what we're dealing with every day. And we have allowed ourselves to be infiltrated, whether it through wokeism, through the internet, and too much information, sensory overload, and everyone gets a trophy. And I think that the victimhood mentality is forced and rewarded for these kids, and that's not acceptable. And I'm sorry, but I'm grew up in the 70s and 80s playing sports. You won or you lost. Yep. If you lost, you got worked in practice. If you won, you got worked even harder in practice, right? So I want to raise victors, and I want to raise assets in the home. And I want these kids to have the confidence where they can sit there and be like, you know what, here I am, send me. Yep. Right? And so our camp is a little different. It's 5 days, and the kids show up, and they go through a friggin' SIF issue. They get a backpack, and they get a fire starter, and a compass, and a knot, and a rope, and a knot tying book, and a med kit, and Band-Aids, and splints, and tourniquets, and like all this stuff. And they're essentially getting over $500 worth of gear. And when I say they're getting a backpack, I'm not getting these like little SpongeBob backpacks from Walmart. They're getting like a junior size, like Deuter, like low alpine like style backpack, something that's durable and it's going to last. They get whistles, they get signal mirrors, they get all these things, and everything they get in a bag, they learn how to use. Okay. And We work the whole week up to a final culminating event. We spend the morning at the 911 call center, so they learn about municipalities. They learn, like, when you call 911, this is what happens. You guys gotta understand that their natural response time is 9 to 16 minutes. So it's not like you call 911, you hang up the phone, and they're there, right? We taught them, now they learn how to talk. We have 911 operators sitting there telling them, like, hey, when you call us, this is how we're gonna talk. These are things that we're gonna ask you, right? I've helped them, the 911 call center, work on their stuff by bringing the kids to them. We then go and we hang out with the ERT guys, the sheriff's, the SWAT team, right? And then we go to the fire department. And then we spend a day in the water with the Coast Guard, which is pretty sick.
Yeah.
And so these kids spend a day learning 911. Now they're learning maritime 911. And they're learning all these other things, and they're learning about the Coast Guard. And it's a great recruiting thing for the Coast Guard, right? Sure. Half the kids from the first camp like, I'm joining the Coast Guard. And I'm not gonna lie, these dudes are living pretty good right over here at South End of Wilmington Beach. But so they do that. Then we do volunteering. We go to Canines of Service. So we teach them the importance of doing something for someone else who's done so much for you, who you're never going to meet, and they're never going to meet you, right? So they become they become professional dog walkers, right? All again trying to keep with the ethos of trying to stay with a biblical like format of learning and giving, right? We do some type of combative. So we teach them situational awareness, self-defense. So we're not teaching them, we're not trying to make them BJJ or Cobb McGraw. We're just teaching them little things that little kids could do to wiggle away and play their strengths, right? Scream, use your mouth, this and the other. So we get them worked up and we go to a specific gym. They'll learn all kinds of things, learn how to crab. But then when they work it up and they get away, they're like, all right, get away. I'm like, no. So I show them, I grab a couple like my son's toys and I hide them in the room. And I'm like, go find Boba Fett. Go find a dinosaur. So now they're like.
Almost like a Kim game.
Right. Yeah. So now they're having to go around the room. So now they're staying engaged. It's not just I got away. Now I'm teaching them stay in the fight. Now we're teaching them medical. We teach them how to start fires. They learn how to do splints. They learn how to treat snake bites.
Is this all ages that you said?
6 to 10.
Right, yeah, but all of them are on the same program? Okay.
Yeah, 6 to 10. Next year, we're going to do overnight. We're going to do 11 to 15 overnight camps next year. So that one, then we'll do that at Don's farm, at the Clean Eats Foundation farm. And then, so then we work up to the final. We do a lot of the final day, Friday, is honestly the fun day. So we break them into elements. We have land nav courses. And there's 5 different points, everything that we've done in the past. And they have an adult with them, and they do cardinal direction in some degrees just to help them learn how to read the compass, follow it, and they have to color flag. They have to find out there. They get to that flag. Now they have to perform a task, do a tourniquet, do a splint, do a field expedient tourniquet with your backpack, that kind of stuff, right? Start a fire. Then all the points take them back to the same point. Well, half the team is doing that. The other half is over here learning how to jack up a car and change a tire. So I have 3 6-year-olds jacking a car up, working together, changing a tire. Right? They also get seatbelt cutters that we sell, and it's the Rescue Me seatbelt cutter. And we teach them, so we get extra seatbelt webbing. We teach them how to cut out of it, simulate breaking the glass, get out, and then move the distance, and then like try to find somebody and pretend that they're calling 911 and stuff like that. So adding that, so now everything they have, they can implement, so they can go back to their family. One of the things that we've implemented into is Mirror Safety. I work with Mirror Safety, gas mask company out of Austin, Texas. So we have the kid gas mask. So we start talking about fire in the home, and the importance of having a gas mask that will help you escape a fire. It's just something small that you can keep next to the bed. You can put it on depending on your age. We have for all ages. And these kids, we teach them how to get out of a house.
Stay low and go.
We actually have on Mirror Safety on YouTube, we have Mirror U Tactical. There's a series we just filmed. They just did the intro release like about 3 weeks ago. And I think we've got like 7 episodes coming out. And one of them is the kids, showing the kids using fire extinguishers and escaping a house that's got smoke on it. All different ages too with the kids, like 10, 8, 7, and 4. So
4?
Yeah.
Wow.
And so it's we're doing all these things, the land nav, the seatbelt cutting. We teach them how to break out of the restraints, how to pop out of a trunk, so all these things. So we're really just trying to send these kids forward I did a tailored class for a family. There's actually 8 grandkids, but 2 of them are too small. Mm-hmm. The 6, we did a 3-hour medical course. They have big family property. They all ride 4-wheelers and dirt bikes. So I made specific fanny packs for them that are full of things that have the types of injuries that they're going to they would probably see falling off of a 4-wheeler. Short splint, long sprint, 3 ace bandages, tourniquets, band-aids, flashlight, or headlamp, whistle, like all kinds in this bag, right? Space blanket, all of these things that they're going to need, right? A signal mirror. So we're doing all, and the kids are like, and I don't know like how, but I just have a way of keeping the kids' attention and making it fun. Yeah. And but yeah, so that's the camp where we want to grow. I would love to get it to where like in 5 years it's a charter school.
That'd be dope.
But
what's it called again?
Life Skills. It's Life Skills with a Z, USA.com. I got some stuff up on Instagram and YouTube. Not a lot because I'm doing a lot of things, but yeah. So the new camp schedule will probably be up in January. We're going to be doing our first 2 camps. Are going to be in Austin, Texas. Okay. God willing, we're working that with Archery Country, and we're going to do a modified camp down there. So first year we did a day of archery with Extreme Outfitters, and this last year they didn't have the staff they didn't run any summer camps this year. So we're gonna try to figure that out for next summer. But we're gonna do 2 back-to-back weeks in Austin, Texas at Archery Country, and what we're going to do is we'll have the class in half. So we're going to do 12 students. 6 will be doing the life skills. 6 will be doing archery, go for lunch, and they flip-flop. Check. And then we're going to be able to get through we're going to go 911 call center there. We got some land nav. So we're going to get a really good flow of stuff there. I'm doing a camp for Sornex in Lexington, South Carolina. And we're going to get 2 of the day camps, and we're going to get a minimum of 1 overnight camp in Wilmington next year. Yeah. So that's what we're going to be working for on that. But the whole thing is that I want, how do we fix society? How do we change the culture? How do you do anything, like even in the military, what you're doing? You start with the entry level. Yep. You start with the youngsters, right? Yep. And you give these kids the confidence that that they can say no, that they can challenge us, that they can be the difference, right? And I would tell you too, is a lot of the products that I trust and I rely on. We started with the seatbelt cutter stuff when my son was 4. And we went through three different seatbelt cutters, and we landed on Rescue Me. It's American made, but it's the one that he can manipulate at 4 years old. Gotcha. Mirror safety, the gas mask, they have the age appropriate masks. And in the video you'll see my son teaching the other kids how to put the mask on. Sure. And that's the big thing. And I'll go back to inspiration of the camp. Uvalde was one of the things that's still in my head is why. Had one of those kids been taught, had there been a stop the bleed kit on the wall in that classroom and one of those kids been trained in thoracics, right? Mm-hmm. They could have prolonged life. The teacher was dead and those other kids bled out and they died, right? If you can give these kids, you teach them to fight and stay in a fight and be the difference and be the leader, right? And be able to be the calm in the chaos, right? That's what we need. And had that happened in Uvalde, some of those kids would have been, why are we teaching our kids to be so self-reliant on a teacher who doesn't know how to save themselves, right? And that's the thing. It's like we run a few medical classes. We have this program that we were asked to come and introduce it to the public school system in Wilmington, and holy crap, like the resistance was like, well, we're gonna have to do a test group, and we think that this class might trigger some kids and all this, but we have a progression class that we want to do starting in 4th grade. Mm-hmm. So by the time that these kids, the way this class is designed, by the time they get to their senior year, when they graduate high school, they graduate with a high school diploma and an EMT certification. Yeah,
that'd be dope. And they won't do it because of pushback?
Because, well, it might trigger some kids. And again, the board members and the educators are like, oh, it might trigger. They were playing victimhood for the kids.
Yeah, just making them victims before they even had a choice.
And we told them, we're like, and it might raise them out of that. It might give them the confidence to fight through that. Yeah. And I know this is true. We had we run a CPR course, and it's CPR AED, but it's a little different. And we had a friend of mine, retired Marine, his wife and his three kids all took the class. Mm-hmm. This was August. He reaches out to us in March, and he's like, hey, he goes, I want to talk to you guys. He's like, I got to tell you about what happened over the holidays. He's like, my wife passed away. He said we were all home. It was January 3rd. We were all home. He said my oldest was home from Lake Forest and everything was good. My wife walked down the stairs and collapsed. My daughter and my son were there right away, laying her out, checking for responsiveness, automatically going into compressions and breaths. Said my youngest son ran out in the middle of the road and was on the phone with 911. And he goes, and I was standing out there, and we were going in rotations until the ambulance got there. He said it was to the T, the exact same scenario that you taught us. Mm-hmm. And we're like, we're so sorry. And he's just like, no. He goes, what you don't understand is your training, my kids, as reluctant as they were to do that day, snapped in, remembered everything you taught them. And because of what they did, they got 4 more days with their mom before she passed away. And he says, I'm going to tell you this right now. He goes, because they did that, and because they did everything in their power, everything in their power to save their mom's life, it has helped with them in their closure.
Yeah, I'm sure if you know that you couldn't have done anything else, like you couldn't have been there like a lot of people have resentment when they have things like that happen. Yeah,
they weren't victims.
Helps.
Yeah, they saw a problem, they attacked the problem, and they worked together. And he said, honestly, the one who had the hardest problem was me. Mm-hmm. And it's like, so why are we not doing this? Mm-hmm. Why are we not doing this? Like I had to take to graduate high school. You had to take CPR in my class, in my school.
The easiest people to rule are dumb and ignorant. Mm-hmm. That's why.
Yeah.
You don't need anybody getting any big ideas, being able to be self-sufficient, grow their own crops, and get out of this dietary crap that they feed everybody.
Yeah.
And I'm not one to preach, man. I'm in the throes of it myself, trying to get out of some of the things that I just absolutely don't agree with.
Yeah.
No, but that's great, man. That's being the light, and that's what I'm about.
Yeah. So, if I do 2 camps a summer until I don't do them anymore, then that's
2 camps a summer.
That's 20 kids.
Mm-hmm.
That's 20 kids. On that 20 kids, if I get 4 of them, that it sticks and they move forward and they work to be the difference. And like I say, I've said this in other venues, and I said, we need to raise the next generation of warrior. Mm-hmm. And when I say warrior, I don't mean door kicker. I don't mean like fighter pilot. I mean the person who's going to have the courage and the fortitude to stand up and stand up for what's right, and stand up for faith and family and country. And they're going to be the ones at 10 years old, at 15, at 18. They're going to be the ones. They're going to be the voice. They're going to be the loudest voice in the room, and they're going to be the beacon to the others who don't have the courage to stand up, but they're going to be the ones that pull them up and lead. And that's what I mean by warrior. Yeah. Because we're coming to a point where that there's a like a very, very hard line that's there. And you're either on one side or you're not. Yeah. And people try to linger in the middle, but
no, this next one's not going to be race. It's not going to be color. No. It's not going to be It's going to be ideology. That's what it's going to be. Either you're on this side or you're on that side. I mean, hell, look at Hollywood with a new movie called Civil War.
Did you see
absolutely classically conditioning the people.
So
I have not seen it. I've just seen the trailers.
We were at Dallas for the NRA show. Mm-hmm. And we had gotten done. We ran 3 days of training out at it's called Colian uses range. It's got all the tires on it. I cannot believe I forgot Tactical Texas. Anyway, it's a really cool spot. We got done. We got the booth set up. We did our podcast, and we had some time. I'm like, hey, let's go see a movie. And we go to the movie, and we're like, look, and we're like, I'm like, Nathan, I'm like, let's go see that Civil War. And we're sitting there and we're watching it. And like 20 minutes into the movie, I just look at him and I go, I'm sorry, bro. I'm sorry.
Was it bad?
Well, it's just, there's things. It's like, it actually could have been good, right? So like Texas and California seceded from the government, but they breezed right over that. The U.S. dollar is garbage. Canadian currency is the premier form of currency. And I'm like, they breeze right over that. And it's like, it's speed up, get to this place, this character dies. Speed up, get to the next place, character dies. All trying to get to D.C. The military split. The president is...
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, the president, you're not missing anything. The president is this. And then it just like, then it's like a hurry up rush ending, right? So then the reporter's like, oh, wait. This is a decoy leaving the White House, the Capitol. I'm like, the president wouldn't be there. He'd be in a bunker.
Yeah,
he wouldn't be
the
sitting there
ground.
writing it out. But apparently that was like the stories that like he had nobody else. He had like 5 Secret Service dudes and everybody else quit.
That's
so
rough.
yeah. So now all of a sudden there's this one female sergeant first class, and she goes, "Let's go!" And now the special forces dudes like the
Rally behind her.
behind
Of course
her.
they do.
And I'm like, and she's like, do this, and I'm like, this is not, and not saying that a female sergeant first class can't lead, but a female sergeant first class, because of your rank, is not going to lead a team of 3 or 4 E5 E6s, special operations guys. It's just
not gonna happen.
The dynamic didn't happen.
The world isn't there.
And
Yeah.
it was a joke. And now I'm like, okay, now they're mocking. Because she was a black American senior enlisted in charge, female, right? So now you have this, and it's like, okay. So then there's like this whole dramatic, like Kirsten Dunst is the main act character, and boom, 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 she gets killed, and they take a picture of her and everything like this, and I look and I laugh out loud, and I'm like, did I see what? He goes, you saw what you saw. So there's brass, massive gunfight in the halls of the Capitol, right? Or the White House. Brass everywhere. And when they took her picture and you look at all the brass, it was...
All blank?
No. It was live rounds. Green tip. Like,
good.
everywhere. Not one piece of brass. All live rounds. And I was just like...
Well, they weren't running out of ammo.
What did they do? Just throw at each other? Like, it just didn't make sense. And it was just like, hurry up, and this rush ending. And then this reporter wanted to interview the president. They had him on the floor, and he goes, wait... And he was like, I get the quote. And then he was like, yes. The president said yes or something like that. And he goes, go ahead. And then it's the
Somebody shoots the president?
the female sergeant first class, the special operations guy. She goes, boom, and she shoots him. And I'm like, what?
Yeah, dude. Weird.
It was
super weird. I'm glad you told me. I'm never going to go watch it.
It was horrible. It was horrible. It was horrible. I wrote a paper. I wrote a thing on it when we were posting articles on our website. And
About how horrible it was?
oh yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It was there's so much more in there, but it was like that one part where that blonde dude, he had the multicam on and the rose-colored glasses, like, we're Americans, and he's like, yeah, what kind of Americans are you? Like, that was one of the best lines.
I seen that in
movie.
the trailer, and I was like, now that's probably how it's going to be, though. Like, if it was to go down that way, I'd be like, yeah, I know you are.
Yeah, but it was no. And
Which
then
way?
they come to one town, and they're like, there's war going on. They're like, yeah, and they're like, aren't you guys worried? They're like, no, we're just not participating. And they're like, okay.
Yeah.
It was weird. And
it would be that way, though. Think it would really be people that just watched.
yeah.
Like the civil, like the revolutionary, there'd be people just watching.
The 3%.
Yep.
3%. Everybody thinks 3% is racist or it's
Some kind of
anti-government kind of thing, but it's a statistical like number from the American Revolutionary, going back to American Revolutionary War, that only 3% actually took up arms.
Yep.
So,
Well, it's less than that now.
yeah,
Well,
that's a long time. I told you I could talk, bro.
2 hours, 33 minutes, 29 seconds.
Man,
I think we're good. Listen, man, I loved it. Definitely a wealth of knowledge, and I'm sure that the audience loved it too. Guys, that's it for Choices Not Chances podcast with Ron Holmes. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, leave a like, leave a comment. Whatever resonated with you, or if something did resonate with you and you know it needs to be shared out, don't be selfish with the information. Share that out to the people in your circle, and we can just grow together. The more people that see this, the more people that are of like minds, kind of picking up little nuggets of truth and little nuggets of don't do this or do this from each other, then we can get better together. Until next time, choices, not chances, guys. Not too far. You're marking ability. Hit him. Yeah, that's good. That's a good shot. That's money. Yeah.